What happens when one decision in a hotel lobby could cost you everything: your career, your daughter's future, and the woman you've fallen for? Daniel Carter stood frozen as his CEO leaned in, champagne-scented and beautiful, ready to kiss him. One word could change his life forever. But which choice would destroy him, saying yes or walking away? Stay with me until the end of this story to find out how a single moment of restraint became the most dangerous gamble of his life. And don't forget to hit that like button and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels across the world. The fluorescent lights of Sterling and Associates hummed their familiar electric song at 11:47 p.m., casting harsh shadows across Daniel Carter's desk. His fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes burning from another 14-hour day, while the half-eaten sandwich beside him had long since surrendered to room-temperature mediocrity. At 34, this had become his life, a careful choreography of deadlines, daycare pickup times, and the desperate mathematics of a single father trying to prove he deserved more. Still here, Carter? The voice belonged to Marcus Chen, one of the senior account managers who had the luxury of a wife at home and no one waiting up worried. Marcus didn't need the promotion the way Daniel did. Marcus didn't calculate grocery costs in his head while presenting to clients or lie awake wondering if generic cereal was really that different from the name brand Sophie preferred. Finishing the Redmond pitch, Daniel replied without looking up. Wants it on her desk by morning. Her needed no clarification. In the 3 months since Olivia Hayes had arrived as Sterling and Associates' new CEO, she had become the only her that mattered. The previous CEO, old Robert Sterling himself, had coasted on legacy clients and golf course handshakes. Olivia Hayes operated like a scalpel, precise, sharp, and willing to cut away anything that didn't serve the company's evolution. Marcus whistled low. Rather you than me, man. Hayes chewed out Philip so badly yesterday he was practically in tears over a font choice. A font choice. Daniel had witnessed that particular massacre. Philip had chosen Calibri. Olivia Hayes had opinions about Calibri, delivered in a tone that could frost glass. She has standards, Daniel said, defending her without quite knowing why. She's a tyrant in Prada heels, Marcus countered. But hey, you got Sophie to get home to. Don't stay all night. The mention of his daughter sent the familiar pulse of guilt through Daniel's chest. Sophie was at his sister Rachel's apartment, probably already asleep, definitely wondering why Daddy had missed bedtime stories again. Rachel never complained, she loved her niece, but Daniel saw it in her eyes. The question she was too kind to ask, how long can you keep this up? The answer was simple, as long as it takes. Because the promotion to senior director wasn't just a title, it was $40,000 more a year. It was health insurance that didn't require him to choose between Sophie's dental work and fixing the car. It was the difference between their cramped one-bedroom apartment where Sophie slept on a fold-out couch and a real two-bedroom where she could have her own space, her own door to close, her own piece of childhood that didn't involve hearing her father on the phone negotiating payment plans at 2 a.m. Daniel saved his work and glanced at the framed photo beside his monitor. Sophie at her 8th birthday party 2 months ago. Chocolate frosting on her nose, missing her 2 front teeth, grinning like the world was still a place where wishes came true if you blew out all the candles. She'd wished for a puppy. He'd gotten her books about puppies and promised someday. Someday. The word he'd been using since her mother walked out. I'm not cut out for this, Jennifer had said, standing in their apartment doorway with 2 suitcases and eyes already looking past him to whatever life she'd imagined without the weight of motherhood. I'm 28 years old, Daniel. I'm not supposed to be someone's mother. I'm not supposed to be this. She'd left on a Tuesday. Sophie had been 6. For weeks, Sophie had asked when Mommy was coming home, and Daniel had stumbled through answers that were technically true, but ultimately hollow. Mommy needs time to find herself. Mommy loves you. She's just confused right now. Eventually, Sophie stopped asking. That silence hurt worse than any question. The divorce papers had arrived with startling efficiency. Jennifer didn't want custody, didn't want visitation. She wanted out, completely, and was willing to sign whatever made that possible. Daniel's lawyer had called it the cleanest parental rights termination I've ever seen, as if the ease of it was something to celebrate rather than mourn. Now it was just the 2 of them, Daniel and Sophie, against the world. And if that world required him to work until midnight to prove he deserved a promotion that would give his daughter the stability she needed, then midnight was when he'd work. He hit send on the email containing the Redmond pitch and finally allowed himself to breathe. The office was tomb quiet now, just the building's mechanical heartbeat and the distant sound of the night cleaning crew's vacuum on another floor. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Sophie's asleep. Don't rush." She had mac and cheese and told me a very long story about a girl named Emma who apparently has 2 American Girl dolls. Emphasis hers, not mine. Daniel smiled despite his exhaustion. Emma Harris, Sophie's sometimes friend, sometimes rival, the benchmark by which Sophie measured all of life's inequities. He texted back, "On my way. Thank you. I owe you. You owe me nothing. But you do owe yourself a life, Danny. This pace isn't sustainable." He didn't reply because he had no answer that wouldn't sound defensive. Instead, he gathered his things and headed for the elevator, the building's emptiness pressing against him like a physical thing. The elevator doors opened. Olivia Hayes stood inside. For a moment, Daniel considered taking the stairs, all 14 floors of them, because being trapped in an elevator with the CEO at midnight felt like the opening scene of either a romantic comedy or a horror movie, and he wasn't sure which. "Getting in or practicing for a statue convention?" Olivia asked, one perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. Daniel stepped inside. "Sorry, didn't expect anyone else to still be here." "Neither did I." She was holding her phone, several shopping bags at her feet with names like Saks and Bergdorf Goodman peeking out. Even at midnight, she looked like she'd stepped from a magazine spread. Dark hair pulled back in a way that was probably called a chignon or something equally sophisticated. Her charcoal suit somehow still crisp, despite what must have been an equally long day. The elevator began its descent. 13, 12, 11. "You sent the Redmond pitch," she said. Not a question. "Yes, just now." "I saw it come through, haven't opened it yet." She glanced at him, and Daniel was struck, not for the first time, by how her eyes were this particular shade of gray that seemed to change with her mood. Storm gray when she was displeased. Soft gray when she was thinking. Right now, they were somewhere in between. "You work late often." "When it's needed?" That's a diplomatic answer. The corner of her mouth quirked. "What's the real answer?" 9, 8, 7. Daniel chose honesty. "I have a daughter, single parent. The hours are necessary." Something shifted in Olivia's expression. Not pity. She didn't strike him as someone who did pity, but something closer to recognition. "How old?" 8. "She must hate these late nights." "She's asleep at her aunt's by now. Doesn't know any different." That felt like a small betrayal of Sophie, so he added, "But yeah, she probably hates it when she thinks about it." The elevator reached the ground floor with a gentle chime. The doors opened onto the marble lobby, empty except for the night security guard reading something on his phone. Olivia stepped out, then paused, turning back to look at Daniel. "The Redmond pitch. I'll read it tonight. If it's good, you'll hear from me tomorrow. And if it's not good, then you'll definitely hear from me tomorrow." She smiled, and it transformed her face from striking to genuinely beautiful. "Get home to your daughter, Carter. Tomorrow's another long day." She walked away, heels clicking against marble, and Daniel stood there wondering if he'd just been threatened, complimented, or both. 3 months earlier, the conference room had the stale smell of too many bodies and too much coffee. 20 people crammed around a table meant for 12, all pretending to listen while mentally composing their emails or planning their lunches. Daniel sat near the middle, his notebook open but mostly blank, because old Robert Sterling's quarterly addresses followed the same script they'd followed for the past decade. Growth, synergy, moving forward while honoring tradition. Words that meant everything and nothing. But today was different because Robert Sterling wasn't leading the meeting. Let me be clear about expectations. Olivia Hayes stood at the head of the table, no notes, no slides, just the sheer force of her presence filling the room. She'd been CEO for exactly 1 week. Sterling and Associates has been coasting on reputation for 5 years, maybe longer. That ends now. Beside Daniel, Patricia Wu shifted uncomfortably. Patricia had been with the company for 18 years, long enough to remember when Robert Sterling's handshake actually meant something in the industry. Our client retention rate is 73%, Olivia continued. Do you know what that means? It means 27% of our clients leave every year. We're hemorrhaging business and replacing it with scraps. That's not growth. That's barely survival. Marcus leaned over and whispered to Daniel, "She's going to fire half of us by Friday." Olivia's eyes snapped to Marcus with predatory precision. "Mr. Chen, if you have something to contribute, the floor is yours." Marcus's face went red. "No, ma'am, sorry. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for solutions." She turned to address the room. Each team will present their top 3 accounts and explain, in detail, why those clients stay with us. I want data. I want innovation. I want reasons why Sterling and Associates is irreplaceable, not interchangeable. You have until Friday. Friday was 3 days away. The meeting dissolved into anxious murmuring as Olivia gathered her materials and left. Daniel sat there, mind already racing through his accounts. Redmond Industries was his biggest client, but were they loyal or were they just comfortable? That night, he worked until 2 a.m., building a presentation that went beyond numbers. He analyzed Redmond's growth trajectory, mapped it against their marketing spend with Sterling and Associates, and identified 3 specific campaigns that had directly resulted in measurable expansion. He didn't just want to show that Redmond stayed, he wanted to show why they'd be foolish to leave. Sophie barely saw him that week. Rachel became the de facto parent, while Daniel lived at his desk, fueled by coffee and the creeping fear that he was about to lose everything he'd been working toward. Friday arrived with the weight of Judgment Day. The presentation room felt like a courtroom. Teams went one by one, most offering variations of the same theme. Our clients like us because we do good work. Olivia's expression grew progressively more disappointed. When Daniel's turn came, his hands were shaking as he connected his laptop to the projector. "Redmond Industries has been with us for 6 years," he began, "but they don't stay because of tenure. They stay because we understand something fundamental about their business that most marketers miss." He pulled up his first slide, not a chart, but a photograph of a Redmond factory floor. "Redmond doesn't make appliances. They make reliability. Every campaign we've built for them has focused on that emotional core. When we launched their smart home line, we didn't talk about features. We talked about peace of mind. Parents at work knowing their house is safe. Elderly people maintaining independence. That campaign increased their market share by 11% in 8 months. Olivia leaned forward slightly. Daniel continued, gaining confidence. "Their competitors focus on innovation and price. We positioned Redmond as the brand you trust when it matters. That's not luck. That's strategy. And it's why when Harrison Electronics tried to poach them last year with a 20% lower rate, Redmond didn't even take the meeting. He showed his data, his analysis, his projections. When he finished, the room was silent. Olivia stood. "Questions for Mr. Carter?" Patricia raised her hand. "Dos. The 11% market share increase, can you verify that wasn't due to seasonal factors, or—" "It's verified," Daniel said. Redmond provided their internal sales data for that analysis. "I have the documentation." Olivia nodded slowly. "Who else built campaigns around emotional positioning rather than product features?" No hands went up. "Interesting." She looked directly at Daniel. "Send me everything you just presented, every data point, every analysis, every supporting document. I want it by Monday." The meeting ended. People filed out, and Daniel felt Marcus clap him on the shoulder. "Either you just saved your job or painted a target on your back. Possibly both." Monday morning, Daniel arrived to find an email waiting. "Carter. Conference room B, 9 a.m. Bring coffee." Oh. He showed up at 8:55 with 2 cups from the good coffee shop 3 blocks over, the one that charged $7 for what amounted to caffeinated art. Olivia was already there, his presentation on the screen, covered in digital notes. "You're early," she said. "You said 9. Most people interpret that as 9:15. She accepted the coffee, took a sip, and made an approving sound. "You actually know what good coffee tastes like. Promising." Daniel sat, unsure if this was a compliment or the beginning of a very polite firing. Olivia clicked through his slides. "This campaign for Redmond, the When It Matters series, that was your concept?" "Yes." "Robert Sterling took credit for it in the annual report." Of course he had. He was technically the account lead. But you did the work. I was part of the team. Olivia's gray eyes pinned him. Carter, I can smell corporate diplomacy from a mile away, and I hate it. Did you create this campaign? A moment of choice. Protect Sterling's legacy or tell the truth? Yes, Daniel said. I created it. Sterling presented it to the client. And you let him. He was the CEO. I am a mid-level account manager. That's how it works. That's how it worked. She closed the presentation. I'm restructuring the senior leadership team. 3 director positions are opening up. Senior Director of Client Strategy is one of them. You're on the short list. Daniel's heart lurched. Thank you. I didn't expect... Don't thank me yet. You're competing against Patricia Wu and James Morrison, both of whom have more experience and more political capital in this company. You'll have to earn it. What do I need to do? Keep doing what you did with Redmond. Build campaigns that matter. Show me why clients would follow you if you left tomorrow. She stood, meeting adjourned. And Carter? Stop letting people take credit for your work. It makes you look weak. She left him sitting there, coffee growing cold, mind reeling. The promotion meant everything. It meant Sophie's future. It meant breathing room. It meant he could finally stop choosing between electricity bills and school supplies. But it also meant the next 3 months would be war. The campaign proposals came fast and relentless. Olivia didn't just want good work. She wanted perfection wrapped in innovation, tied with a bow made of measurable results. Daniel found himself staying later, arriving earlier, living on 4 hours of sleep and the desperate fuel of necessity. Sophie noticed. Daddy, why are you always tired? She asked one morning, watching him pour coffee with the concentration of a bomb technician. Just busy with work, sweetheart. Is work more important than me? The question hit like a physical blow. Daniel knelt down to her level, taking her small hands in his. Nothing is more important than you. Not work, not anything. I'm working hard for you, so we can have a better place to live, so you can have the things you want. I just want you home, Sophie said quietly. He pulled her into a hug, feeling like the world's worst father and most desperate employee all at once. I know, baby. I know. Just a little while longer, okay? Things are going to get better. She nodded against his shoulder and he hoped he wasn't lying to her. Juan. The meeting that changed everything happened on a Wednesday in October. Olivia had called the senior team together to discuss the Hartwell Corporation pitch, a massive potential client that could reshape Sterling and Associates' entire portfolio. James Morrison, one of Daniel's rivals for the promotion, had been working on the proposal for weeks. James presented his concept, traditional, safe, exactly what Hartwell had probably seen from every other agency. When he finished, Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Anyone else have thoughts? This was the moment to stay silent. James had seniority. James had relationships with the executive team. James had everything to lose if someone challenged his proposal. Daniel raised his hand. Carter? I think we're solving the wrong problem, Daniel said, and immediately felt everyone's eyes on him. Hartwell doesn't need another marketing agency. They need someone to help them understand why they're becoming irrelevant. James's face went red. Hartwell Corporation is hardly irrelevant. To consumers under 40, they absolutely are, Daniel interrupted, and somewhere in his peripheral vision he saw Patricia Wu's eyes go wide. Their brand recognition in the 18 to 35 demographic is under 15%. Their legacy without evolution. If we pitch them marketing tactics, we're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Olivia leaned back in her chair, but go on. We need to pitch them transformation, a complete brand repositioning that acknowledges what they were while showing a path to what they need to become. That's not a marketing campaign. That's a partnership. James looked like he wanted to climb across the table. With all due respect, that kind of approach could offend them. They're proud of their heritage, which is exactly why they're dying, Daniel said. Pride in heritage is an epitaph, not a business strategy. The room went silent. Olivia stood. Morrison, thank you for your work on this. Carter, I want your version of the pitch on my desk by Friday. Meeting adjourned. As everyone filed out, James grabbed Daniel's arm in the hallway. What the hell was that? That was me doing my job. That was you committing career suicide. James's grip tightened. Olivia might be impressed by your little performance, but the board won't forget that you publicly humiliated a senior team member. Good luck with your promotion, Carter. You're going to need it. He walked away, and Daniel stood there wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his career. That night, working until 3 a.m., he built a presentation that was either brilliant or career-ending, possibly both. Friday morning, he sent it to Olivia with a subject line that felt appropriately dramatic. Hartwell. Evolution or extinction? Her response came 3 hours later. Conference room B, now. He walked in to find Olivia at the head of the table, his presentation already on screen, and 3 members of the executive board sitting in attendance. Mr. Carter, said Eleanor Rodriguez, CFO, and the company's most terrifying spreadsheet enthusiast. Walk us through this aggressive approach. Daniel did. He showed the data on Hartwell's declining market share. He presented consumer research showing that younger demographics viewed Hartwell as their parents' brand. He outlined a complete repositioning strategy that honored their history while building toward relevance. When he finished, Eleanor looked at Olivia. This could either save Hartwell or offend them so badly they never speak to us again. Agreed, Olivia said, which is why we're going to let Carter present it to them directly. Daniel's stomach dropped. I'm sorry, what? You built it, you pitch it. Monday morning, Hartwell's executive team. Think you can handle that, Carter? Everyone was looking at him. This was the test, the real one. Yes, he said, with more confidence than he felt. None. The weekend was a blur of rehearsal and revision. Rachel kept Sophie while Daniel lived in his presentation, refining every word, anticipating every objection, building backup slides for every possible direction the conversation could turn. Sunday night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything riding on tomorrow. The promotion. Sophie's future. His entire career distilled into one 90-minute meeting. His phone buzzed at 11 p.m. A text from an unknown number. Stop rehearsing and get some sleep. You're ready? Oh. He stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. How do you know I'm rehearsing? Because I know you. Sleep, Carter. Tomorrow changes everything. He did sleep eventually and dreamed of presentations that turned into roller coasters, clients who spoke in riddles, and Olivia Hayes watching from the shadows with those storm-gray eyes. Monday arrived with merciless sunshine. The Hartwell Corporation's headquarters occupied 3 floors of a building that looked like a steel and glass monument to mid-century capitalism. Daniel rode the elevator up with Olivia beside him, both of them silent, both knowing this was make or break. The conference room held 6 people, Hartwell's CEO, CFO, CMO, and 3 others whose titles Daniel immediately forgot because his heart was trying to escape through his throat. Mr. Carter, said the CEO, a man named Douglas Hartwell, who looked exactly like his corporate headshot, but more intimidating. My team tells me you have some strong opinions about our company. I have data-supported observations, Daniel replied, setting up his laptop, and a proposal for how to turn those observations into opportunity. He began. For 90 minutes, he walked them through their own decline with the clinical precision of a surgeon. He showed them their obituary written in market research. He made them confront the reality that in 10 years, Hartwell Corporation might only exist in business school case studies as a cautionary tale. Then he showed them the way out. The repositioning wasn't about abandoning their heritage. It was about making that heritage relevant. You built this company on quality and trust, Daniel said. Those values don't age, but the way you communicate them needs to evolve. You can be the brand that grandparents trust and the brand their grandchildren aspire to, but not if you keep pretending it's 1985. When he finished, the room was silent. Douglas Hartwell tapped his pen against his notepad. Once, twice, 3 times. That was either the most insulting or most honest presentation I've ever received, he finally said. Possibly both. Daniel's career flashed before his eyes. Then Douglas smiled. When can you start? The contract was signed by Wednesday. Hartwell Corporation became Sterling & Associates' largest client, with Daniel Carter as the lead strategist in a budget that made Eleanor Rodriguez actually giggle during the signing meeting. More importantly, when the promotion decisions were announced 2 weeks later, Daniel's name was at the top of the list. Senior Director of Client Strategy, $115,000 salary, full benefits, company car allowance, the whole package. He sat in Olivia's office, the offer letter in his hands, reading it 3 times to make sure it was real. "Congratulations," Olivia said. "You earned it." "Thank you." Thank you." "Stop thanking me. You did the work." She stood, extending her hand. "Welcome to senior leadership, Carter." He shook her hand, professional and appropriate, trying to ignore the fact that this was the first time they'd touched, and his entire arm felt like it had been struck by lightning. The late nights didn't stop with the promotion. They intensified. Now Daniel wasn't just managing accounts. He was building strategy, mentoring junior team members, sitting in on executive meetings that ran until the cleaning crew arrived. But the money made a difference. He moved Sophie into a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. She got her own room, painted purple at her request, with actual furniture instead of hand-me-downs. He bought her the shoes she wanted without calculating the cost. When she casually mentioned that Emma Harris was having a birthday party at the American Girl store, Daniel didn't have to say no. Life was better. Measurably, materially better. But Sophie still fell asleep on the couch some nights, waiting for him to come home. And Daniel still felt like he was failing at the one job that actually mattered. It was Olivia who noticed. "You look exhausted," she said one evening when they were the last 2 in the office. "A frequent occurrence these days. Just busy." "That's not what exhausted looks like. That's what guilt looks like." She closed her laptop. "Talk to me." "I'm fine." "Carter." She said his name like a command. "One of the privileges of being CEO is that I can see through corporate bullshit. What's wrong?" He didn't mean to tell her, but it was late, and he was tired, and she was looking at him with something that almost resembled actual human concern, so the words spilled out. "I have everything I said I wanted. The promotion, the money, the stability, and my daughter is still falling asleep alone, waiting for a father who chooses work over bedtime stories. So what exactly have I earned?" Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something he didn't expect. "My father was a corporate attorney, made partner when I was 7. I saw him maybe an hour a day, if that. Know what I remember most? Not his absence. His presence. The fact that when he was there, he was fully there. Every Sunday, no matter what, was ours. No phone calls, no emails, no exceptions." She looked at him directly. "You can't be everywhere at once, Daniel. Stop trying. Be strategic about your presence the way you're strategic about everything else." Quality over quantity. It was the first time she'd called him Daniel instead of Carter. "When's the last time you had a full day off?" she asked. He thought about it. "I don't know." "Saturday. Block it. I'll cover anything urgent. Spend it with your daughter." When he started to protest, she held up a hand. "That's not a suggestion. That's a directive from your CEO. Saturday is non-negotiable." So Saturday, Daniel took Sophie to the zoo. They ate overpriced ice cream and watched penguins and rode the carousel 3 times. Sophie talked about school and her friends and how Mrs. Patterson gave her a gold star for her book report. And for 8 hours, Daniel's phone stayed in his pocket. And he was just dad. When they got home, Sophie hugged him and said, "This was the best day ever." That's when he realized Olivia Hayes might just be the most dangerous person in his life, because she was making him want things he'd convinced himself were impossible. The night everything shifted started ordinarily enough. The Hartwell campaign was launching in 2 weeks, and the pressure was immense. Daniel had been living at the office, fine-tuning every detail because this wasn't just a campaign. It was proof of concept. Either his approach worked, or he'd built a very expensive failure. Olivia had been just as consumed, working alongside him, offering insights and occasionally ruthless critique. Somewhere in those long nights, the dynamic between them had shifted from boss and employee to something closer to partnership. They ordered takeout to the office most evenings, Thai food on Tuesdays, Indian on Thursdays, that terrible Chinese place that somehow tasted better at midnight. "You're going to give yourself an ulcer," Olivia said, watching him stress-eat spring rolls while reviewing analytics. "Already have one. His name is Douglas Hartwell, and he sends passive-aggressive emails at 6 a.m. She laughed, a real laugh, not the polite CEO version, and Daniel realized he'd been collecting those laughs like rare coins. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said before his brain could stop him. "You can ask. I'll decide if I answer." "Why did you take this job? You could run anywhere. Why Sterling and Associates?" Olivia set down her chopsticks. "Because Robert Sterling called me 6 months before he retired and said, 'I built something that mattered, but I'm watching it die. Fix it if you can.' That's not an opportunity. That's a mission. And have you fixed it? Ask me after Hartwell launches." She looked at him with those gray eyes. "Or ask me about you." "What about me?" "You're the fix, Daniel. You're what this company needed, someone who actually gives a damn about the work instead of the politics. Someone who takes risks that terrify everyone else. Someone who—" She trailed off, seeming to catch herself. "Someone who what?" "Someone I trust," she finished quietly. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither of them was quite ready to name. Daniel's phone buzzed, Rachel asking what time he'd pick up Sophie tomorrow. The spell broke. "I should go," he said. "Early morning tomorrow." "They're all early mornings." But Olivia smiled. "Get some sleep, Daniel." He gathered his things and left. But that conversation stayed with him, turning over and over in his mind like a Rubik's Cube he couldn't quite solve. Someone I trust. The words shouldn't have meant so much. But they did. Because somewhere in the past months, between late-night strategy sessions and stolen conversations over takeout containers, Daniel Carter had developed feelings for his boss that went far beyond professional admiration. And that was a problem with no clear solution. The Hartwell campaign launched on a Wednesday that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if the parachute would open. Daniel had barely slept for 3 days, running final checks, coordinating with media buyers, ensuring every element aligned perfectly with the strategy he'd sold Douglas Hartwell on that life-changing Monday months ago. The initial response came within hours. Social media engagement spiked 340% in the first day. The repositioned brand messaging resonated exactly as Daniel had predicted. Younger demographics responded to the evolved heritage narrative, while longtime customers felt their loyalty acknowledged rather than dismissed. By Friday, Douglas Hartwell himself called Olivia's office. Daniel sat across from her desk, watching her face as she took the call on speaker. "Ms. Hayes, I'll be direct," Douglas said, his voice carrying that particular timbre of old money and older power. "You're Mr. Carter has either saved my company or he's a witch. Possibly both. Our sales team is reporting interest from demographics we haven't reached in 15 years. Olivia's eyes met Daniel's, and something bright flashed in that gray. "I'll pass along your compliments, Douglas, though I should mention witchcraft isn't typically covered under our standard contract." Douglas laughed, a sound like distant thunder. "Put him on retainer. Whatever it takes. I want him leading every major initiative for the next 3 years." When the call ended, Olivia leaned back in her chair, a smile playing at her lips. "Congratulations. You're officially indispensable." "Just doing my job." "You're doing more than that, and we both know it." She stood, moving to the window that overlooked the city. "Eleanor is already talking about restructuring your compensation package. Partner track, if you want it." Partner. The word hung in the air like a promise and a threat. Partnership meant equity, real money, the kind of security that turned words like someday into next month. It also meant deeper commitment, longer hours, more pressure. "I need to think about it," Daniel said. "Of course you do." Olivia turned back to him. "Take the weekend. Spend it with Sophie. Give me an answer Monday." But that weekend, Sophie had other plans. She'd been invited to Emma Harris's house for a sleepover, her first ever, and despite Daniel's protective instincts screaming that 8 was too young for sleepovers, Rachel had talked him down from the ledge. "She needs to be a kid, Danny," Rachel had said. "Not everything is dangerous." So Saturday evening, Daniel dropped Sophie off at the Harris house, watching her skip up the driveway with her overnight bag, so excited she forgot to hug him goodbye until Mrs. Harris gently reminded her. "Daddy!" Sophie ran back, throwing her arms around his waist. "I love you!" "Love you too, sweetheart. Be good. Call if you need anything." "I will!" She was already running back before he finished the sentence. Daniel drove home to an empty apartment and the strange, unsettling silence of a Saturday night with no responsibilities, no bedtime routine, no requests for water or extra stories or one more hug. Just silence and the uncomfortable realization that he had no idea what to do with himself anymore. His phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Heard Sophie's at a sleepover. First time flying solo as an empty nester? He smiled despite himself. Is it that obvious? You sent 3 emails in the last hour. On a Saturday. It's extremely obvious. Have you eaten? Does coffee count? No. Meet me at Marcello's in an hour. Consider it a working dinner to discuss your partnership decision. Daniel stared at the text. Marcello's wasn't a working dinner kind of place. Marcello's was romantic candlelight and wine lists thicker than most novels, and the kind of Italian food that made people propose marriage to their pasta. That seems formal for a work discussion. Then consider it a celebration dinner. You just saved our biggest client. Humor me, Carter. He should have said no. Should have recognized this for what it was. A line being approached, maybe crossed. But the apartment was too quiet, and the weekend stretched too long, and Olivia Hayes was asking him to dinner in a way that felt less like a command and more like a question. I'll be there. He changed clothes 3 times, which was ridiculous. This was a work dinner, colleagues celebrating success. Nothing more. The fact that he settled on the dark blue shirt Rachel had bought him last Christmas because it makes your eyes pop was purely coincidental. Marcello's occupied a corner building in the historic district, all exposed brick and soft lighting and the kind of intimate atmosphere that made every conversation feel like a secret. Daniel arrived exactly on time, old habits, to find Olivia already seated at a corner table, wearing a dress he'd never seen before. Emerald green, simple and devastating, nothing like her usual boardroom armor. You're staring, she said as he sat down. Sorry. You look different. I look like I'm not at work. She smiled. You clean up well yourself. Is that shirt new? Christmas present from my sister. She has good taste. Olivia handed him a menu. Order whatever you want. This is on the company card. Or more accurately, it's on me because I'm feeling generous and you earned it. The waiter appeared, introduced himself as Paolo, and launched into a description of specials that sounded more like poetry than food. Olivia ordered in Italian, actually conversed with Paolo in fluid, unaccented Italian that made Daniel realize he knew almost nothing about this woman, beyond what happened inside office walls. When Paolo left with their orders, Daniel said, I didn't know you spoke Italian. My mother was from Florence. She insisted we speak it at home. Something shadowed her expression. She passed when I was 16. Cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. She had a good life, just not a long one. Olivia took a sip of wine. She's the reason I work the way I do. She used to say, Olivia, if you're going to do something, make it matter. Otherwise, what's the point? Daniel thought about his own mother, who died when he was 23 before she ever met Sophie, before she could see him become a father. My mom said something similar. Don't waste time on things that won't matter in 5 years. Smart woman. She was. He paused. Though I'm not sure she'd approve of the hours I keep. Would she approve of what those hours have built? The question sat between them, heavier than it should be. Would his mother approve? Would she understand the choices he'd made, the balance he'd tried to strike between providing and being present? I think, Daniel said slowly, she'd tell me to figure out what I'm actually working toward. Because if it's just money or titles, I'm missing the point. And what are you working toward? Honestly, I don't know anymore. The admission surprised him. It started as survival, making sure Sophie had what she needed. But somewhere along the way, it became about proving I could do this, be a single father and a successful professional. That I wasn't a failure just because my wife left. Olivia's expression softened. Jennifer leaving wasn't a reflection of you. It was a reflection of her. Daniel looked up sharply. How do you know my ex-wife's name? A faint smile. I'm a thorough CEO. I read personnel files. Yours mentioned your situation. That feels like an invasion of privacy. It's due diligence. But she had the grace to look slightly apologetic. For what it's worth, anyone who walks away from their child is someone with broken priorities. You're not a failure, Daniel. You're a man who stayed. The waiter arrived with their food, breaking the moment. But Daniel's appetite had shifted from physical to something else entirely. A hunger for this conversation, this connection, this glimpse of Olivia Hayes as a person rather than a position. They ate and talked about things that had nothing to do with work. Olivia told him about growing up in Boston, her father's impossible standards, her decision to pursue business instead of law despite family pressure. Daniel shared stories about Sophie, the time she tried to give their neighbor's cat a bath and ended up needing stitches, the elaborate imaginary friend phase that had lasted for 2 years, the way she still checked under her bed for monsters, even though she'd never admit it. She sounds wonderful, Olivia said. She is. She's the best thing I've ever done. He meant it. Everything else, the career, the success, it's background noise compared to her. Then why are you considering the partnership? The question cut through the pleasant haze of wine and conversation. Because it would set her up for life, college fund, stability, opportunities I never had. Or, Olivia said carefully, it would lock you into another decade of the same pace you're keeping now. Partner means more responsibility, more travel, more late nights. Is that what you want? I want to give my daughter the best life possible. I'm not sure she defines best life the same way you do. Olivia leaned forward slightly. When I was 8, my father was making partner at his firm. He missed my birthday, my dance recital, the day I broke my arm falling off my bike. But he paid for the best private schools, the best tutors, the best of everything except his time. And you resented him? No. I understood him. Her voice went quiet. But I never really knew him. And now he's gone, and I can't get those years back. I'm not telling you what to choose, Daniel. I'm asking if you're choosing what you actually want or what you think you should want. The weight of her words settled over him like snow, soft at first, then accumulating until it was impossible to ignore. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Always. Why do you work the hours you do? You're already successful, already CEO. What are you proving? Olivia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a vulnerability he'd never heard before. That I'm worth more than what I can produce. My father loved me, but he loved success more. I spent my whole life trying to out-achieve that love, to become so successful he couldn't help but see me. She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. He died before I made CEO. Never saw it. I'm sorry. Me too. She finished her wine. So to answer your question, I'm not sure what I'm proving anymore. Maybe just that I can. Or maybe I'm just as lost as you are, wrapped up in a nicer package. The honesty between them felt dangerous, like they were both standing on ice they knew was too thin but couldn't quite step away from. Paolo returned to clear their plates and suggest dessert with the enthusiasm of someone describing a religious experience. They ordered tiramisu to share, which felt more intimate than it should, 2 forks in the same plate, the space between them shrinking with each bite. This was nice, Olivia said eventually, not thinking about work for a few hours. We talked about work plenty. We talked about life that happens around work. That's different. She glanced at her watch. It's only 9. Walk with me? They left Marcello's and wandered through the historic district, past shops closed for the evening, and street musicians playing for spare change and couples holding hands like they had nowhere else to be. The autumn air had turned crisp, carrying the smell of wood smoke and fallen leaves. I love this time of year, Olivia said, wrapping her coat tighter. Everything dying but still beautiful. That's dark. That's realistic. Beauty doesn't require permanence. She glanced at him. Do you think about the future, beyond work and Sophie? Sometimes. Usually at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep. What do you see? Daniel thought about it. Sophie graduating high school, college, getting married maybe, me in the audience, taking too many pictures, probably crying. He smiled. Beyond that, it gets fuzzy. What about you? Honestly, nothing. The admission seemed to surprise her. I can plan 5-year corporate strategies down to the quarter, but my personal life is completely unwritten. It's like I've been so focused on climbing that I forgot to think about what happens when you reach the top. Maybe the top isn't a destination. Maybe it's just another viewpoint. Olivia stopped walking, turning to face him. When did you become philosophical? I have an 8-year-old. They ask existential questions before breakfast. She laughed, and the sound echoed off the brick buildings around them. They had somehow ended up in a small park, empty except for a couple on a bench across the way, wrapped up in each other and oblivious to the world. "Can I tell you something?" Olivia asked. "You keep asking permission like I'm going to say no." "This is different." She seemed to be gathering courage. "The reason I asked you to dinner tonight wasn't just to celebrate Hartwell. It was because I wanted to spend time with you outside of work, as people, not positions." Daniel's heart stuttered. "Olivia, let me finish." She held up a hand. "I know this is complicated. I'm your boss. There are power dynamics and professional boundaries and about 17 HR policies that would frown on this conversation. But I also know that in the past 6 months, you've become the person I most look forward to seeing every day. Not because of your work, though your work is exceptional, but because you make me laugh. You challenge me. You remind me that there's life outside of quarterly reports and board meetings. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. Because if you take the partnership, we'll be working even more closely together. And I couldn't do that without being honest about where I stand." The moment stretched between them, full of possibility and danger in equal measure. Daniel could feel the ice cracking beneath his feet. One wrong step and everything could shatter. His career, his stability, Sophie's future. But looking at Olivia in the lamplight, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen her, all he could think was how easy it would be to kiss her. How natural it would feel to close the distance between them and stop pretending this was just professional respect. "I need to tell you something too," he said, "and you're going to hate it. Try me. I think about you constantly, not as my boss or my CEO or even as my colleague, just as you, as Olivia. And it terrifies me because I have so much to lose. My job, the stability I've built for Sophie, everything I've worked toward. But I also know that every late night we spend together, every conversation we have, I'm falling for someone I absolutely cannot fall for." Olivia's breath caught. "Daniel, I'm not done." He stepped closer. "You asked what I want. I want to be a good father to Sophie. I want to do work that matters, and I want to see where this could go between us. But I don't know how to do all three without one of them suffering. So what do we do?" "I have no idea." He ran a hand through his hair. "Every logical part of my brain is screaming that this is a terrible idea. You're my boss. The power dynamic is impossible. If this goes wrong, I lose everything. And if it goes right?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither was quite ready to explore. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket, shattering the moment. He pulled it out to see a text from Sophie, a photo of her and Emma making silly faces, with the message, "Having the best time ever. Love you, Daddy." He showed Olivia the picture and she smiled. "She's beautiful. She's my entire world." He pocketed the phone. "Which is why this is so complicated. It's not just about me. Any decision I make affects her." "I understand." Olivia started walking again, and Daniel fell into step beside her. "For what it's worth, I wouldn't want you to risk your relationship with Sophie. Not for me, not for anyone." They walked in silence for a while, the weight of their confessions settling around them like fog. Eventually they ended up back at the restaurant where their cars were parked. "Thank you for tonight," Olivia said, "for being honest. Thank you for not firing me on the spot. The night's not over yet." But she smiled when she said it. "Think about the partnership. Think about what you actually want. And Daniel?" "Yeah? Whatever you decide, we'll figure out the rest. I'm not going anywhere." She got in her car and drove away, leaving Daniel standing in the parking lot, feeling like he'd just survived something simultaneously wonderful and devastating. He drove home slowly, his mind replaying the entire evening, the way Olivia had looked in that green dress, the vulnerability in her voice when she talked about her father, the moment when she'd admitted her feelings and the world had tilted on its axis. His phone rang as he pulled into his apartment complex. "Rachel." "Hey," he answered. "Sophie okay?" "Sophie's fine. I'm calling because I just got off the phone with her, and she wouldn't stop talking about how happy you sounded this week. So I'm asking, what's changed?" "Nothing. Work's going well." "Danny." Rachel used the tone that meant she could see through him. "You're my brother. I've known you for 34 years. Something's different. Is it a woman?" He should have lied, should have deflected. Instead, he found himself saying, "Maybe." Rachel squealed, actually squealed. "Tell me everything." "There's nothing to tell yet. It's complicated." "It's always complicated." "Is she nice? Does Sophie know? When do I get to meet her?" "Slow down." He got out of his car, heading up the stairs to his apartment. "It's very early and very uncertain. I'm not even sure it's a good idea." "But you like her." He unlocked his door, stepping into the quiet apartment. "Yeah, I really like her." "Then figure it out. You deserve to be happy, Danny. Not just stable or successful, actually happy." After they hung up, Daniel sat on his couch in the dark, thinking about happiness. When was the last time he'd thought about that as a goal rather than a luxury? Somewhere in the years since Jennifer left, he'd trained himself to think in terms of survival and success, measuring his life in paychecks and Sophie's smile rather than his own contentment. But tonight, walking through the city with Olivia, he'd felt something he hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Not just for career advancement or financial security, but for actual connection. For someone to come home to who wasn't just waiting for bedtime stories, but who wanted to hear about his day, who understood the weight of his choices because she carried similar ones. His phone buzzed again, a text from Olivia. "I forgot to ask, what are you going to tell Sophie about the partnership?" He thought about it, then typed, "I'm going to ask her what she thinks. She has a vote in this." Smart man. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Olivia." He sat there for another hour, the apartment quiet around him, thinking about crossroads and choices, and the terrifying prospect of wanting something that wasn't neatly categorized as for Sophie's future. Sunday morning, he picked Sophie up from the sleepover to find her exhausted, overstimulated, and talking at approximately 900 words per minute about every single thing that had happened in the past 18 hours. And then Emma's mom made us pancakes with faces on them, and we watched 2 movies, and I didn't even get scared during the scary part. And Emma has a trampoline in her backyard. A trampoline, Daddy. And we jumped for like 1,000 hours and... "Breathe, sweetheart," Daniel said, laughing. "I'm glad you had fun. The best fun ever." She buckled herself into her car seat, almost too big for it now, growing up so fast it hurt. "Can Emma come to our house next time?" "Sure. We'll set it up." "Even though we don't have a trampoline?" "Even though we have other fun things." "Like what?" Good question. Their apartment didn't have a trampoline or a backyard or even much space, but it had them, and that had always been enough before. "Like us," he said. "We're pretty fun." Sophie seemed to accept this. She chattered most of the way home, then crashed on the couch within 20 minutes of arriving, asleep in that boneless way only children managed. Daniel covered her with a blanket and settled into the kitchen table with his laptop, meaning to catch up on work, but instead finding himself staring at the partnership offer email Eleanor had sent Friday afternoon. The money was staggering. The benefits were comprehensive. The opportunity was everything he'd been working toward. But it also meant more travel, more responsibility, and more of the same pace that already had him missing bedtime stories and soccer practices. He thought about what Olivia had said. "I'm not sure she defines best life the same way you do." And he thought about his mother's advice. "Don't waste time on things that won't matter in 5 years. Would this partnership matter in 5 years? Or would Sophie matter more in a different way, in the memories they made together rather than the college fund he built?" Sophie woke up around dinner time, groggy and disoriented. Daniel made her favorite meal, spaghetti with butter and parmesan, nothing fancy, and they ate together at their small kitchen table. "Hey, Soph," he said. "Can I ask you something important?" She perked up. Sophie loved being asked important things. "Yeah?" "My job might change. It would mean more money, which means we could get a bigger place, maybe with a backyard. You could have more toys, we could go on better vacations. But it would also mean I'd be traveling sometimes and working later nights." Sophie thought about this, twirling spaghetti on her fork. "Would you be gone a lot?" "Maybe. I'm not sure yet. Like when Mommy was gone?" The question hit him in the chest. "No, sweetheart, not like that. I'd always come back, always. This would just be for work." "Oh." More twirling. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." She went back to eating, and Daniel thought the conversation was over. But as he was clearing the dishes, Sophie said quietly, "I think I like our apartment. It's not big, but it's ours. And I like when you're home for dinner. Me too, sweetheart. So maybe you could say no to the job thing, and we could just stay like this? Out of the mouths of babes. That night, after Sophie was asleep in her purple room, Daniel opened his laptop and started typing an email to Eleanor Rodriguez. The words came slowly, each one feeling like stepping off a cliff. Eleanor, thank you for the partnership offer. After careful consideration, I've decided not to accept the position at this time. I'm grateful for the opportunity and hope to continue contributing to Sterling and Associates in my current role. However, my priorities require me to maintain the balance I've found, and partnership would compromise that. I hope you understand. Best, Daniel Carter. He read it 3 times before hitting send, then sat there feeling simultaneously relieved and terrified. He'd just turned down more money than his father had made in a decade. He'd just said no to the kind of opportunity people spent their entire careers chasing, and he felt lighter than he had in months. His phone rang immediately. Olivia. You turned it down, she said without preamble. News travels fast. Eleanor called me panicking that we're about to lose you. Are we? No, I'm not leaving. I'm just not taking the partnership. A pause. Why? Because Sophie asked me to stay like this. And I realize she's right. I don't need partner to be successful. I need to be present. The rest is just noise. Daniel Carter, Olivia said slowly, you just became infinitely more interesting. By turning down money and prestige? By choosing what actually matters. Her voice softened. I'm proud of you. That took courage. They talked for another hour about nothing and everything, until Daniel realized it was past midnight and he had work in the morning. When they finally hung up, he fell asleep with his phone in his hand and a smile on his face. Monday morning brought the inevitable conversations. Eleanor tried to talk him out of his decision. James Morrison made pointed comments about some people not having what it takes. Patricia Wu just gave him a knowing look and said, "Good for you, Carter." But it was the email from Douglas Hartwell that surprised him most. Carter. Heard you turned down partner. Smart man. I made partner at 35, missed my daughter's entire childhood chasing success. She barely speaks to me now. Money's great. Legacy's better. Keep doing what you're doing. DH. That afternoon, Olivia called him into her office. He went expecting another attempt to change his mind, but instead found her standing by the window, that familiar gray gaze thoughtful. Close the door, she said. He did. I've been thinking about our conversation Saturday night, she began. About what we both want and how complicated this situation is. Olivia, let me finish. She turned to face him fully. You were right. The power dynamic makes this impossible while I'm your direct supervisor, so I'm fixing that. What do you mean? Starting next month, you'll report to Eleanor instead of me. Different chain of command, different approval structures. We'll still work together on major accounts, but I won't be your boss. Daniel stared at her. You're restructuring the company because of... I'm restructuring because it makes strategic sense, she interrupted smoothly. Several senior directors have been requesting clear reporting lines. This solves multiple problems at once. And if people figure out the real reason, then they'll realize that I care more about doing things ethically than I do about appearances. She stepped closer. I'm not asking you to start anything now. I'm just removing the obstacle so that if we both decide this is something we want, we can pursue it without compromising your career or my integrity. He struggled for words. That's the most bureaucratically romantic thing anyone's ever done for me. She laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. Consider it my version of clearing a path. What if the path doesn't lead where we think? Then at least we'll know we tried. Her expression grew serious. But Daniel, there's something you need to understand. If we do this, if we actually try to build something real, I need to meet Sophie. Not as your boss, not as a business dinner, as someone who might become part of both your lives. I won't be a secret you keep from your daughter. The request was fair, more than fair. It was the kind of integrity that made him respect her even more. She'll interrogate you, he warned. She has opinions about everything. I'd expect nothing less. Olivia smiled. I'm free Saturday if you are. And just like that, the path became real. The week between that conversation and Saturday moved with the strange dual quality of dragging endlessly while simultaneously arriving too fast. Daniel found himself alternating between excitement and pure terror, sometimes within the same 5-minute span. He was introducing his daughter to a woman he had feelings for, a woman who, until recently, had been his boss and was still technically the CEO of his company. A woman who represented possibilities he'd stopped letting himself imagine. Tuesday night, Sophie asked why he kept checking his phone and smiling. "Just thinking about the weekend," he said, which was true if incomplete. "Are we doing something fun?" This was the moment. He'd been rehearsing various versions of this conversation in his head for 2 days, each one sounding more ridiculous than the last. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that." He sat down on the couch beside her, muting the show she'd been half watching. "You know how I work with a lot of people at my job?" Sophie nodded, suspicious of where this was going in the way only 8-year-olds could be. "Well, there's someone I work with who I've become friends with. Her name is Olivia, and I thought maybe she could come over on Saturday and we could all hang out together. Maybe work on that science project you have due next week." Sophie's eyes narrowed. "Is this like when Emma's dad started bringing around that lady, and then they got married?" Daniel's heart stuttered. That's a big jump, sweetheart. We're just friends." "That's what Emma's dad said too." She tilted her head, studying him with the uncomfortable perception children sometimes wielded like weapons. "Do you like her? Like her?" "It's complicated. That's what adults say when the answer is yes, but they don't want to say yes." Sophie pulled her knees up to her chest. "Is she going to try to be my new mom?" "No." Daniel said it firmly, immediately. "Nobody's trying to replace your mom, Sophie. That's not what this is about." "Good, because I don't need a new mom. The old one didn't even want to stay." The words landed like stones, each one heavy with a hurt Sophie rarely voiced aloud. Daniel pulled her close, feeling her small body tense before gradually relaxing against him. "I know, baby. I know." He kissed the top of her head. "This isn't about replacing anything. Olivia is just someone I'd like you to meet. If you don't want to, we don't have to. You get to decide." Sophie was quiet for a long moment. "What if I don't like her?" "Then we'll have a nice visit, and that'll be the end of it. Your opinion matters most to me. Always." "Does she know about me?" "She knows you're the most important person in my life. I've told her all about you." Another silence, this one thoughtful rather than hurt. "What did you tell her?" "That you're smart and funny and brave. That you hate broccoli but love Brussels sprouts for some inexplicable reason. That you're teaching yourself to draw horses and they're getting really good. That you make me proud every single day." Sophie's cheeks flushed pink. "You really said all that? Every word?" She thought about it, her face cycling through expressions Daniel had learned to read over 8 years of fatherhood. Uncertainty. Curiosity. A hint of something that might have been hope. "Okay," she finally said. "She can come over. But if she's mean or boring, you have to promise we don't have to see her again." "I promise." "And I get to ask her questions." "Of course." Like really hard questions. Emma says when her dad's girlfriend came over, she asked if she was a gold digger, and everyone got really quiet. Daniel tried not to laugh. "How about we stick to slightly less confrontational questions?" "But I can still ask questions?" "Yes. Age-appropriate questions that won't make anyone cry." Sophie considered this. "Deal. But Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart?" "If you like her, it's okay. I want you to be happy too." The simple generosity of it nearly broke him. He pulled her into another hug, this one lasting until she squirmed and complained that he was squishing her. Wednesday morning, Daniel texted Olivia. She said yes, but be warned, she plans to ask questions. The response came immediately. "I'd be disappointed if she didn't. What time should I arrive? 2 p.m.? Gives us time to have lunch first and get the awkward waiting around over with." "Perfect. Should I bring anything?" Daniel thought about it. "Just yourself. And maybe lower your expectations. Our apartment is small, and our science project supplies are mostly glitter and popsicle sticks." Glitter and popsicle sticks are the foundation of all great innovation. See you Saturday. Thursday. Daniel caught himself cleaning the apartment with an intensity that hadn't existed since the last time the landlord had visited. He scrubbed baseboards that no one would see and reorganized shelves that were already organized. Rachel, who'd stopped by to drop off some of Sophie's things she'd left at her place, watched this performance with undisguised amusement. "You do know this woman has seen you at your worst, right?" Rachel said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "She worked with you during the Hartwell crisis. She's seen you unshowered and running on 2 hours of sleep." "That's different. That was professional disaster, Daniel. This is personal life, Daniel. They're the same Daniel, just with different anxiety triggers." Rachel picked up the cleaning spray he'd been using. "Danny, breathe. If this woman likes you enough to restructure her company's reporting structure, I'm pretty sure she's not going to judge you for having a lived-in apartment." "It's not about judgment. It's about—" He stopped, unable to articulate the feeling. What if this doesn't work? What if Sophie hates her, or she realizes dating a single dad is too complicated, or what if it goes fine and you're working yourself up over nothing? Rachel set the spray down and grabbed his shoulders. "Listen to me. You're a good man, a great father, and you deserve to have something for yourself. Stop catastrophizing and just let this happen." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You've just been too stressed to notice." She hugged him. "I'm proud of you, for taking this risk." "I haven't done anything yet." "You're trying. That's more than you've done in years." Friday night, Sophie insisted on helping him plan what to make for Saturday. She vetoed his suggestion of ordering pizza as too boring and his backup plan of making spaghetti as too messy. They eventually settled on grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, which Sophie declared was fancy but not trying too hard. "Where did you learn about trying too hard?" Daniel asked. "Emma's mom talks about it all the time. She says Emma's dad's girlfriend tries too hard with the presents and stuff." Sophie got out her markers, apparently planning to make a welcome sign. "I don't need presents. I just need her to be nice to you." The insight caught Daniel off guard. "You're worrying about me?" "You worry about me all the time. It's my turn." She started drawing what appeared to be a very abstract flower. "Plus, you smile different when you talk about her, like how you smile when I bring home good grades. Happy proud." "Happy proud isn't a thing." "It is now. I invented it." She added more colors to her flower, which was starting to look more like an explosion. "What does she look like?" "She's pretty. Dark hair, gray eyes. She's tall. Taller than me in heels." "Does she like kids?" "I think so. She hasn't spent much time around them, but she seems interested in meeting you." Sophie nodded seriously, as if this confirmed something. "Emma says her dad's girlfriend only pretended to like kids at first. But then she got nicer for real. Maybe that'll happen with Olivia too." "Maybe." Though Daniel suspected Olivia wasn't the type to pretend anything. If she didn't like something, she'd say so directly, probably with supporting data. Saturday morning arrived with deceptive calm. Daniel woke up at 6, despite not needing to be up until 8, his mind already racing through every possible way the day could go wrong. He made coffee, checked his phone 17 times, and was in the middle of reorganizing the bookshelf when Sophie wandered out of her room, sleepy and confused. "Daddy, why are you moving books around?" "Just tidying up." "You tidied yesterday. And the day before." She climbed onto the couch, wrapping herself in the throw blanket. "You're nervous." "A little." "Me too." She watched him for a moment. "What if she doesn't like me?" Daniel abandoned the bookshelf and sat beside her. "That's impossible. You're completely likable." Emma's mom's friend didn't like her. She said Emma was too loud. Then Emma's mom's friend has terrible judgment, and I promise you, Olivia isn't like that. "How do you know?" "Because she wouldn't be coming here if she didn't genuinely want to meet you. She's not the type to do things she doesn't mean." This seemed to satisfy Sophie. She snuggled closer to him, and they sat there watching morning cartoons until Daniel's anxiety forced him back into motion. He made them breakfast, double-checked that he had all the science project supplies Sophie needed, and changed his shirt 3 times before settling on the first one. At 1:30, Sophie announced she was changing into her fancy casual outfit, which turned out to be her favorite purple dress with leggings and the sneakers that lit up when she walked. She'd also attempted to style her own hair, resulting in a lopsided ponytail that Daniel gently fixed. "How do I look?" she asked, spinning. "Perfect." "How do I look?" She studied him critically. Nervous, but good nervous. There's a good kind of nervous? The kind where you care about something. She grabbed his hand. It's okay to care, Daddy. At 1:55, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Parking now. Still okay to come up? He typed back with shaking hands. Absolutely. Apartment 3B. She's here, he told Sophie. Sophie immediately ran to the window, trying to spot Olivia in the parking lot. Which car is hers? I don't actually know. He'd never seen Olivia's personal car, only the company sedan she sometimes used for client meetings. The knock on the door came exactly at 2 o'clock. Daniel took a breath, caught Sophie's eye, she gave him a thumbs up, and opened the door. Olivia stood there in jeans and a soft gray sweater, her hair down around her shoulders instead of pulled back, looking simultaneously more casual and more nervous than Daniel had ever seen her. She was holding a small bag. Hi, she said. Hi, come in. Come. She stepped inside, and Daniel watched her take in the apartment, the mismatched furniture, the crayon drawings on the fridge, the science project supplies already spread across the kitchen table, Sophie's light-up sneakers by the door. Her expression softened. Sophie, Daniel said, this is Olivia. Olivia, this is Sophie. Sophie had been hanging back by the couch, but now she stepped forward with the formal politeness she reserved for meeting adults. Hello, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, Sophie. Olivia crouched down to her level. Your dad's told me a lot about you. He says you're an excellent artist. I'm okay. I'm better at horses than people. Sophie eyed the bag Olivia was carrying. What's in there? Sophie, Daniel warned, that's not, it's fine. Olivia smiled and held out the bag. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I brought options. But your dad said no trying too hard, so I kept it simple. Sophie took the bag and pulled out its contents. A sketchbook, a set of drawing pencils, and a book about how to draw animals. Her eyes went wide. These are really nice, she said quietly. I saw the drawings on your fridge. You have talent. I thought you might like some better supplies than crayons. I love crayons, Sophie said quickly, defensive. Crayons are great, but sometimes it's nice to have choices. Olivia stood back up. But if you don't like them, no pressure. Your dad also mentioned you have a science project we could work on. Sophie clutched the sketchbook to her chest. It's about volcanoes. We have to make one that actually erupts. That sounds fun. I haven't made a volcano since I was about your age. Did yours work? It did, but it also ruined my mother's favorite tablecloth, so we'll be more careful than I was. Sophie giggled, and just like that, some of the tension in the room dissolved. They moved to the kitchen table where Daniel had laid out the supplies. Sophie had designed an ambitious volcano that required significant engineering, and Olivia dove into the project with surprising enthusiasm. She asked Sophie questions about her design choices, offered suggestions without being condescending, and didn't flinch when Sophie accidentally spilled glitter all over her jeans. I'm so sorry, Daniel said, trying to brush off the glitter. That stuff never comes out. It's fine. I'll be sparkly for the next month. There are worse fates. Olivia caught his eye and smiled, and Daniel felt something in his chest relax. They worked on the volcano for over an hour, Sophie gradually warming up until she was chattering away about school and her friends and the book series she was reading. Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and sharing her own stories about being 8 years old in a way that made Sophie laugh. Your mom was from Italy? Sophie asked at one point. That's so cool. Do you speak Italian? I do. Would you like to hear some? Sophie nodded eagerly, and Olivia said something in fluid Italian that made Sophie's eyes go wide. What does that mean? It means you seem like a very smart young lady with excellent taste in volcano designs. It does not, Sophie said, but she was grinning. Okay, it actually means you have a beautiful smile, but the volcano thing is implied. When the volcano was assembled, an impressive mountain of papier-mâché that would need to dry overnight before they could paint it, Daniel suggested they break for the snacks he'd prepared. Sophie immediately declared herself the official tour guide and insisted on showing Olivia her room. Daniel followed them, watching Olivia admire Sophie's horse drawings, her collection of stuffed animals, and the solar system mobile hanging from the ceiling. This is really cool, Olivia said, studying the mobile. Did you make this? Daddy helped. We learned about all the planets and then built it together. Sophie pointed to each planet. That's Jupiter. It's the biggest. And that tiny one is Pluto, which isn't technically a planet anymore, but we included it anyway because it deserves representation. Pluto absolutely deserves representation. I'm glad you included it. They ate grilled cheese and tomato soup at the small kitchen table, Sophie sitting between Daniel and Olivia, still asking questions. Do you like your job? Sophie asked. Most days, yes. Some days it's frustrating, but I think that's true of any job. My dad works a lot. Does he work a lot because of you? Sophie, Daniel interjected, that's not... It's okay, Olivia said gently. That's a fair question. She looked at Sophie directly. Your dad works hard because he's good at what he does and because he cares about doing things right. I try not to ask him to work more than necessary, but you're right that sometimes the job requires long hours. Does that bother you? Sophie considered this. Sometimes, but he says it's to take care of me. That's true. He talks about you all the time at work. You're clearly the most important thing in his life. More important than work? Way more important than work. Sophie seemed satisfied with this answer. She took another bite of her sandwich, then asked, Do you have kids? No, I don't. Do you want kids? Sophie, Daniel said, more firmly this time, that's a personal question. You said I could ask questions. Age-appropriate questions. It's okay, Olivia said again. She looked at Sophie thoughtfully. I never thought much about having kids when I was younger. I was always focused on school and then work. But lately, I've been thinking maybe I missed out on something important. You could still have kids. You're not that old. Olivia laughed. Thank you for that assessment. Emma's mom had a baby last year and she's like 40. She's 36, Daniel corrected. That's almost 40. Sophie turned back to Olivia. Are you going to date my dad? The question dropped into the conversation like a bomb. Daniel nearly choked on his soup. Sophie! What? You said you like her. I'm just asking if she likes you back. Olivia's cheeks had gone slightly pink, but she didn't look away from Sophie. I think your dad is a really good person. And yes, I like him. But whether we date or not depends on a lot of things, including whether you're comfortable with it. Sophie thought about this, swinging her legs under the table. Would you be nice to him? Because Emma's dad's girlfriend was mean at first, and it made Emma's dad sad. I would try my best to be nice to him, and to you. And you wouldn't try to be my mom? Never. You already had a mom, and nobody can replace that. I would just be... me. Olivia. Someone who cares about your dad and wants to get to know you. Sophie studied her for a long moment, and Daniel held his breath waiting. Okay, Sophie finally said. You can date him, but if you make him sad, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. That's fair, Olivia said seriously. I would be disappointed in me too. After lunch, they returned to the volcano project, painting it with acrylics while Sophie narrated the entire plot of the book series she was reading. Olivia listened attentively, asking questions that proved she was actually paying attention, not just being polite. Around 5 o'clock, Sophie announced she was going to her room to try out the new sketchbook. It was clearly a manufactured exit, giving the adults time to talk, and Daniel felt a surge of love for his perceptive daughter. Once she was gone, Olivia looked at Daniel. So, that went well, I think? She interrogated you. She's protective of you. I respect that. Olivia started cleaning up the paint supplies. She's wonderful, Daniel, truly. You've done an amazing job with her. I'm mostly just trying not to screw it up. You're doing more than that. She's confident, articulate, thoughtful. Those things don't happen by accident. Daniel helped her clean up, their hands occasionally brushing as they worked side by side at the sink. The apartment felt different with Olivia in it, warmer somehow, more alive. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Always. Why did you really come today? Not the polite answer, the real one. Olivia dried her hands on a towel, taking her time. Because I needed to know if this could work. Not theoretically, but actually. If I could fit into your life in a way that made sense. If Sophie would hate me or if we could potentially build something. She met his eyes. And because I wanted to see you here. In your real life. Not just the office version. And I'm glad I came. She smiled. Your daughter is amazing. Your apartment is lovely, even if it is small. and watching you be a dad is possibly the most attractive thing I've ever seen." Daniel felt heat rise in his face. "I fed her grilled cheese and cleaned up glitter." "Exactly." Olivia moved closer. "You were present, patient. You let her ask inappropriate questions and didn't get defensive. You're a good father, Daniel. That matters to me." They stood there in the kitchen, close enough that Daniel could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive, close enough that it would be easy to kiss her. But Sophie was just in the next room, and this felt too important to rush. "I should probably go," Olivia said reluctantly. "Give you guys your evening. Or you could stay for dinner. Nothing fancy. We were just going to order from that Thai place Sophie loves." "The one that's too spicy for her, so she orders plain rice and chicken fingers?" Daniel laughed. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you tell me about her." Olivia hesitated. "Are you sure? I don't want to overstate." "Sophie," Daniel called toward the bedroom. "Olivia might stay for dinner. That okay with you?" Sophie appeared in the doorway, holding her new sketchbook. "Yeah, but can we watch a movie after? I want to show Olivia my favorite." "What's your favorite?" Olivia asked. "It's a secret until you watch it, but it has horses." "Then I definitely need to stay." They ordered Thai food, Sophie got her chicken fingers and rice, and they settled on the couch to watch what turned out to be an animated movie about a girl and a wild horse. Sophie sat between them, providing running commentary on her favorite scenes, occasionally reaching over to grab Olivia's hand during the scary parts. By the time the movie ended, Sophie was fighting sleep, her head drooping against Daniel's shoulder. "Okay, sleepyhead," Daniel said. "Time for bed." "But Olivia's still here," Sophie protested weakly. "I'll be here again," Olivia promised. "But your dad's right. You need sleep." Sophie allowed herself to be herded toward her bedroom, but stopped at the door and looked back at Olivia. "Thank you for the art stuff. And for helping with my volcano." "You're welcome. Thank you for letting me visit." "You can come back whenever you want. You're nice." Then with the brutal honesty of childhood, "Way nicer than I thought you'd be." After Daniel had tucked Sophie in and read her the required bedtime story, he returned to the living room to find Olivia standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. "She's asleep," he said. "She's incredible, Daniel. You should be proud." "I am, every day." He moved to stand beside her. "Thank you for today, for being patient with her questions and just being yourself." "I was terrified," Olivia admitted. "What if she hated me? What if I said the wrong thing? What if I proved I'm completely incompetent with kids?" "You weren't incompetent. You were perfect." "I don't know about perfect, but I think we might have passed the first test." She turned to face him. "The restructuring goes into effect on Monday, which means, as of Monday, I'm officially not your boss anymore." "I'm aware." "Which means the only thing standing between us and actually trying this is whether we both want to." Daniel's heart was pounding. "And do you want to try this?" "I think I've wanted to try this since you challenged me in that first meeting about Hartwell." "Maybe before." Olivia stepped closer. "But I need you to be sure, Daniel, because I don't do things halfway. If we do this, I'm all in. And that means Sophie too. I'm not interested in being someone you see when it's convenient. I want to be part of your actual life." "That's terrifying." "I know. Sophie comes first, always. I wouldn't want it any other way. And if this doesn't work out, then we'll handle it like adults," Olivia interrupted. "We'll be honest with each other and with Sophie. We won't drag it out or make it messy. But Daniel, we can't plan for every possible failure. At some point, you just have to take the risk." He thought about everything that had led to this moment. The late nights, the conversations, the slow building of something he'd tried to deny. The way Olivia had looked at Sophie's drawings like they were masterpieces. The way she'd answered Sophie's invasive questions with honesty instead of platitudes. "Okay," he said. "Okay? Let's try this. Let's see where it goes." Olivia's smile was worth every ounce of fear. "Yeah?" "Yeah, but we take it slow. Let Sophie adjust. No rushing into anything." "Agreed." She reached out and took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "For what it's worth, I think this is going to be good. Scary, but good. The best things usually are." They stood there for a moment, hands linked, both of them terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Then Olivia glanced at her watch and sighed. I really should go. It's late, and you have work tomorrow. So do you. True, but I'm the CEO. I can show up whenever I want. She squeezed his hand before letting go. Walk me to my car? They went downstairs together, the night air cool and crisp. Olivia's car turned out to be a sleek silver sedan that suited her perfectly, elegant but practical. Thank you for today, she said, keys in hand, for letting me into your world. Thank you for wanting to be in it. She kissed his cheek, brief, soft, full of promise. See you Monday, Daniel Carter. See you Monday, Olivia Hayes. He watched her drive away, then climbed back up to his apartment where Sophie had somehow migrated from her bed to the couch, wrapped in blankets and clearly not as asleep as she'd pretended to be. I like her, Sophie announced. I thought you were sleeping. I was resting my eyes. She sat up. She's pretty, and she didn't talk to me like I'm stupid. Emma's dad's girlfriend does that. I'm glad you like her. Are you going to kiss her? Because if you are, you should do it soon. Emma says her dad waited too long and his girlfriend almost started dating someone else. I'm not taking dating advice from Emma's 8-year-old perspective on her father's love life. Fine, but you should still kiss her, Sophie yawned. Can she come to my soccer game next week? You want her to come? Yeah, it'll be fun, and maybe she'll see that I'm good at stuff other than volcanoes and asking questions. Daniel pulled her into a hug. You're good at everything, sweetheart. But yes, I'll ask if she wants to come. Good. Sophie snuggled against him. Daddy, I'm glad you're happy. You smile more now. Yeah? Yeah. The happy, proud smile. I like it. That night, after Sophie was actually asleep in her actual bed, Daniel lay awake thinking about crossroads and choices and the terrifying vulnerability of wanting something that wasn't guaranteed. He thought about Jennifer and how she'd left without looking back, how that abandonment had taught him to protect himself and Sophie from any possibility of that pain happening again. But Olivia wasn't Jennifer. Olivia had shown up when she said she would. Olivia had sat on his apartment floor making volcanoes and hadn't flinched when Sophie asked impossible questions. Olivia had restructured her company to make room for the possibility of them. Maybe it was time to stop protecting himself from happiness just because happiness had failed him once before. His phone buzzed, a text from Olivia. Thank you for today. Sophie is wonderful and you're wonderful and I'm really glad we're trying this. Sleep well, Daniel. He typed back. Sleep well, Olivia. See you at work. Monday. This is going to be interesting. That's one word for it. Good night. Daniel set his phone down and closed his eyes, a smile on his face. Tomorrow already feeling full of possibility. Monday arrived with the weight of change. The company-wide email about the restructuring went out at 8 in the morning, clinical and professional in its language about optimizing reporting structures and enhancing operational efficiency. Daniel's name appeared under Eleanor Rodriguez's division now, a clean line of separation between him and Olivia that looked entirely strategic on paper. Marcus Chen appeared at Daniel's desk before 9, coffee in hand and curiosity written all over his face. So you report to Eleanor now, he said without preamble. That's interesting. It's a restructuring. Happens all the time. It happens when companies are growing or failing. We're doing neither. Marcus leaned against the cubicle wall. Which means this is about something else. Want to tell me what? Not particularly. Is it because you turned down the partnership? Are they punishing you? Daniel looked up from his computer. Why would they punish me by keeping me in my current role with the same salary and benefits? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Marcus took a sip of his coffee, studying Daniel. You've been different lately, happier. Less like your one bad client meeting away from a stress-induced breakdown. Thanks for that assessment of my mental health. I'm serious. Something's changed. And now there's this mysterious restructuring that specifically separates you from Hayes' direct supervision right after you two have been working late together for months. Marcus's eyes widened. Oh my God, are you sleeping with the CEO? Jesus, Marcus, keep your voice down. Daniel grabbed his arm and pulled him into an empty conference room, closing the door. And no, I'm not sleeping with anyone. It's complicated. Complicated is corporate speak for yes, but I don't want to admit it yet. Marcus sat down, looking delighted. Daniel Carter, you dark horse. How long has this been going on? Nothing's going on. We're just seeing where things go, slowly, very slowly. Does she know about Sophie? She met Sophie on Saturday. Marcus whistled low. You introduced her to your daughter. That's not seeing where things go. That's serious. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Which is why we restructured the reporting, to keep everything ethical and above board. So Hayes restructured the entire senior leadership team just to date you? She restructured for multiple strategic reasons. This was just one factor. That's the most romantic corporate maneuvering I've ever heard. Marcus grinned. Good for you, man. Genuinely. Hayes is terrifying, but in like an impressive way. If anyone can handle dating her, it's you. I'm not sure handle is the right word. Oh, fair. She's not a problem to be managed. She's a person. Marcus stood, heading for the door. For what it's worth, I think you two make sense. You both care too much about your work in a way that would drive normal people crazy. At least you understand each other. After Marcus left, Daniel tried to focus on actual work, but his mind kept drifting. How many people had already noticed the restructuring? How many were drawing the same conclusions Marcus had? And more importantly, did it matter? His phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Eleanor wants to meet with you at 10, standard check-in for the new reporting structure. Try not to look too relieved that you don't report to me anymore. He smiled and typed back, I'll do my best to seem disappointed. Careful. I might take that personally. The meeting with Eleanor was mercifully straightforward. She walked him through expectations, deliverables, and the quarterly review process with the efficiency of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. Near the end, she closed her laptop and looked at him directly. I'm not going to ask about your personal business, she said, but I will tell you that Olivia Hayes is possibly the most ethical person I've ever worked with. If she restructured to remove a conflict of interest, she did it because she believes in doing things the right way. Don't make her regret that decision. Daniel met her gaze. I don't plan to. Good. Now get out of my office and go make us some money. The week progressed with strange normality. Daniel worked on the Hartwell account, attended meetings, reviewed proposals. He saw Olivia in the hallways and conference rooms, their interactions professional and appropriate. But there were moments, a shared glance during a particularly boring presentation, her hand briefly touching his when she passed him a document, the way she smiled when he made a joke that no one else seemed to get, that felt like secrets they were keeping from the fluorescent-lit corporate world around them. Wednesday evening, Daniel picked Sophie up from Rachel's and found his sister giving him an appraising look. You're glowing, Rachel said. I'm not glowing. Men don't glow. You're radiating something then. Happiness, contentment, the smug satisfaction of someone whose romantic life is finally functioning? Sophie looked up from her backpack. Daddy has a girlfriend now. Her name is Olivia, and she's really nice, and she helped me make a volcano. Rachel's eyebrows shot up. Oh, really? And when were you planning to tell me about this? It's very new, Daniel said. We're taking it slow. But she came over on Saturday, Sophie added helpfully. And she's coming to my soccer game this weekend, and Daddy smiles at his phone a lot now. Traitor, Daniel muttered. Rachel pulled him aside while Sophie gathered her things. I want details. All of them. There's not much to tell yet. We're dating, officially, as of Saturday. The woman you work with, the CEO woman? She's not my boss anymore. We restructured specifically so there wouldn't be any ethical issues. Rachel studied him for a long moment, then hugged him. I'm happy for you, Danny. You deserve this. Just promise me you'll be careful with Sophie's heart. Always. And your own heart, too. You've been protecting it for so long, I'm not sure you remember how to be vulnerable. The observation stuck with him as he drove Sophie home. Was he being vulnerable? Or was he still holding back, still protecting himself against the possibility of everything falling apart? Thursday night, Olivia called him after Sophie was asleep. Hi, she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. Hi yourself. I've been thinking about Saturday, Sophie's soccer game. Are you sure you want me there? I don't want to make things weird for her with her team or the other parents. She specifically asked if you'd come. If anything, I'd be in trouble if you didn't show up. Okay, but I need to know the protocol. What do soccer parents wear? How competitive are we supposed to be in our cheering? Are there snacks involved? Daniel laughed. Wear whatever you're comfortable in. Cheer enthusiastically, but not aggressively. And yes, there are always snacks, usually orange slices and juice boxes, but Mrs. Patterson, one of the other moms, sometimes brings elaborate themed treats. Themed treats for 8-year-old soccer. You have no idea how seriously some of these parents take it. Last week, someone brought cupcakes decorated to look like soccer balls. They were actually impressive. I feel severely underprepared for this world. You'll be fine. Just be yourself. Sophie already likes you. That's the hardest part. There was a pause, then Olivia said quietly, I'm nervous, Daniel. I haven't done the whole meet the family, integrate into their life thing before. What if I mess it up? Then you mess it up and we figure it out together. That's how this works. He settled back against his couch. Besides, you faced down Douglas Hartwell and an entire board of skeptical executives. I think you can handle youth soccer. Those situations had clear objectives and measurable outcomes. This is messier. Yeah, but better. Better? She echoed, as if testing the word. I'm going to trust you on that. They talked for another hour about nothing in particular. Her week, his week, a documentary she'd watched, a book he was trying to read. The conversation had the easy rhythm of people who were learning each other's patterns, finding the comfortable spaces between words. When they finally hung up, Daniel found himself smiling at the ceiling like a teenager, which Rachel would definitely mock him for if she knew. Friday brought its own complications. Douglas Hartwell called an emergency meeting about the next phase of their campaign, which meant Daniel spent most of the day in conference rooms running scenarios and adjusting timelines. Olivia sat in on the client call, professional and incisive, and if anyone noticed the way Daniel's eyes occasionally drifted to her during the meeting, they had the grace not to mention it. After the call ended and the conference room cleared, Olivia lingered. You were good in there, she said. Hartwell was being reasonable for once. That made it easier. Don't undersell yourself. You managed to convince him that accelerating the timeline was actually his idea. That's a skill. I learned from the best. Flattery noted and appreciated. She glanced toward the door, making sure they were alone, then stepped closer. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Fair warning, though, I have no idea how to talk to other parents. Do I introduce myself as your colleague, your friend? The woman who's dating your daughter's father seems overly complicated for casual soccer field conversation. Just introduce yourself as Olivia. If anyone asks, you're a friend. We don't owe anyone our relationship status. A friend who helped build a volcano and is now attending a soccer game. That tracks. She smiled. What time should I be there? Game starts at 10. Get there around 9:45 if you want to avoid the parking chaos. I'll be there at 9:30 just to be safe. Of course you will. You probably have it in your calendar with reminder alerts. 9:15, 9:25, and 9:28. She didn't even look embarrassed. Punctuality is a virtue. Saturday morning dawned bright and unseasonably warm for late autumn. Sophie was vibrating with excitement, partly about the game and partly about Olivia coming to watch. What if we lose? She asked while Daniel braided her hair. Then you lose. It's not a big deal. But what if Olivia thinks I'm bad at soccer? First of all, you're not bad at soccer. Second, Olivia's coming to support you, not judge your athletic ability. She doesn't care if you score 10 goals or spend the whole game picking flowers on the sideline. I don't pick flowers anymore. That was when I was 7. My apologies. You're practically a professional athlete now. Sophie giggled, then got serious again. Daddy, is Olivia going to be at all my games now? The question was loaded with implications Daniel wasn't sure how to navigate. Would you want her to be? I don't know. Maybe? Sophie twisted in her chair to look at him. Emma says when her dad's girlfriend started coming to stuff, it meant she was going to stay. Is Olivia going to stay? Daniel finished the braid and turned Sophie to face him. I hope so, sweetheart. But I can't promise that. People don't come with guarantees. What I can promise is that whatever happens, it won't change how much I love you or how important you are to me. But you like her a lot, right? Yeah, I like her a lot. Good. Me too. Sophie hopped down from the chair. Can we get donuts on the way to the field? Absolutely not. You'll get a stomach ache. That's a myth perpetuated by worried parents. Where did you learn the word perpetuated? Mrs. Henderson used it in class. Can I still have a donut? After the game, they arrived at the soccer field at 9:40, joining the familiar chaos of kids in mismatched shin guards and parents setting up folding chairs. Daniel spotted Olivia immediately. She'd taken his advice about casual dress, wearing jeans and a lightweight jacket, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, less like the CEO who commanded boardrooms and more like someone who could blend into a Saturday morning soccer crowd. Sophie saw her and immediately ran over. "You came!" "Of course I came. I wouldn't miss it." Olivia held up a small bag. "I brought orange slices. I was told they were essential." "You brought orange slices?" Daniel said, impressed despite himself. "I researched proper soccer game etiquette. Orange slices appeared in multiple sources." She looked almost shy. "Is that okay?" "It's perfect." They found a spot along the sideline, Daniel setting up chairs while Sophie ran off to join her team. Other parents started arriving, and Daniel found himself making introductions. "This is Olivia," he said when Mrs. Patterson came over with her elaborate snack setup. "She's a friend of ours." "Nice to meet you," Mrs. Patterson said, giving Olivia the subtle once-over that soccer moms had perfected. "Are you new to the team?" "New to youth soccer entirely," Olivia admitted. "This is my first game." "Well, welcome. Fair warning, things can get competitive. Last week, 2 dads almost got into a fistfight over an offsides call." "That seems excessive for 8-year-olds playing recreational soccer." "You'd think so, wouldn't you?" Mrs. Patterson laughed. "But you'll learn. Oh, and if you hear someone yelling, 'That's my daughter,' in increasingly frantic tones, that's usually Mr. Chen. His daughter is our goalkeeper." After Mrs. Patterson moved on to distribute her snacks, Olivia leaned toward Daniel. "This is more intense than I expected." "Wait until the game actually starts." She wasn't wrong. The moment the whistle blew, the sideline transformed into a chorus of encouragement, instruction, and occasional panic. Sophie played midfielder, her small form darting across the field with surprising speed. When she got possession of the ball and made a solid pass to her teammate, Olivia jumped to her feet cheering, then looked embarrassed. "Too much?" she asked Daniel. "Perfect amount. Keep it up." The game progressed with the beautiful chaos that characterized youth sports. Brilliant moments of actual soccer punctuated by kids getting distracted by clouds or stopping mid-play to tie their shoes. Sophie was focused and engaged, clearly trying her best, and when she stole the ball from an opposing player and sent it upfield, both Daniel and Olivia were on their feet applauding. At halftime, Sophie ran over, sweaty and grinning. "Did you see that steal?" she asked Olivia. "I did. That was incredible. You were so fast." "Coach says I'm one of the fastest on the team." Sophie grabbed a water bottle, chugging it. "Are you having fun?" "So much fun. Your teammates are really good." "That's Mia. She's the best scorer. And that's Jasmine. She's new, but she's getting better. And that's Emma. You remember Emma from my stories? The one with 2 American Girl dolls? That's her." Sophie waved at Emma, who waved back cautiously. "I told her you were coming. She said you're pretty." "That's very sweet of her. She also said her dad's girlfriend isn't as pretty. So you win." Sophie said this with the blunt honesty of childhood, then ran back to her team for the second half. Olivia looked at Daniel. "There's a competitive ranking of significant others at youth soccer games. I was not prepared for this information." "Welcome to the suburban parent hierarchy. It's deeply weird and you get used to it." The second half was tighter, both teams clearly energized by halftime oranges and parental encouragement. With 5 minutes left and the score tied, Sophie found herself with the ball near the goal. Daniel watched her hesitate, looking for someone to pass to, then make a decision. She took the shot. The ball sailed past the goalkeeper's outstretched hands and into the net. The sideline erupted. Daniel was shouting. Olivia was jumping up and down, and Sophie stood there looking shocked that she'd actually scored. Her teammates mobbed her, and when she looked back toward her dad, her face was pure joy. "She scored," Olivia said, grabbing Daniel's arm. "Did you see that? She scored." "I saw it." He was grinning so hard his face hurt. The game ended with Sophie's team winning by that single goal. The kids lined up to shake hands with the other team, then dissolved into the chaos of post-game snacks and parental congratulations. Sophie ran to them, still radiating excitement. "Did you see? I scored! I've never scored before." "You were amazing," Daniel said, pulling her into a hug despite her sweaty state. "Absolutely amazing," Olivia added. "I had no idea soccer was this exciting." "That's because you've never watched it with someone who cares." Sophie grabbed both their hands. "Can we get donuts now?" Daddy promised. They ended up at a local donut shop, Sophie still in her soccer uniform, recounting every moment of the game in vivid detail. Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking questions and celebrating each play as if it were professional sports. Other families from the team filtered in, and Daniel watched Olivia navigate the social dynamics with surprising ease. She introduced herself without explaining their relationship, deflected nosy questions with polite vagueness, and somehow managed to have a conversation with Mr. Chen about goalkeeper strategy, despite knowing virtually nothing about soccer an hour ago. "She's good at this," Rachel had texted after Daniel sent her a photo of Olivia and Sophie sharing a donut. "Don't screw it up." "Thanks for the confidence," he'd texted back. "I'm serious. This is good for both of you. Sophie needs to see you happy, and you need to remember that you're allowed to be happy. So don't self-sabotage." Later, after they dropped Sophie off at Rachel's for an afternoon playdate, Daniel and Olivia found themselves alone for the first time all day. They ended up at a coffee shop, sitting in a corner booth with oversized mugs and the quiet afternoon lull around them. "Thank you for coming today," Daniel said. "Thank you for inviting me. I genuinely had fun, which I did not expect when you said youth soccer game. You brought orange slices. You researched soccer parent protocol. You cheered so loud when Sophie scored that Mr. Chen looked concerned. I got invested." Olivia wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "She's a great kid, Daniel. Watching you with her, seeing how you interact, how she trusts you completely, it's beautiful. Most days I feel like I'm failing her. Most days you're wrong." She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "You're a good father. She's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her." He turned his hand over, lacing their fingers together. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "What are we doing?" "Really? Because this doesn't feel casual anymore, and I need to know where your head is." Olivia was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I think we're building something real and potentially lasting, and that terrifies me because I've never done this before. Never let someone this far in, never let myself care about someone's child, never restructured my entire professional life to make room for a relationship. But I'm doing all of it anyway because when I'm with you and Sophie, I feel like I'm finally living instead of just achieving." "That's terrifying," Daniel agreed. "Absolutely terrifying." She squeezed his hand. "But also worth it. At least, I hope it will be. So we're really doing this. Full commitment, seeing where it goes, accepting that it might get messy. That's what I want." "Is it what you want?" Daniel thought about Jennifer and how she'd left without warning, without looking back. He thought about the years he'd spent protecting himself and Sophie from any possibility of that pain recurring. He thought about all the reasons this could go wrong, the complications, the risk, the way loving someone meant giving them the power to hurt you. Then he thought about Olivia cheering at Sophie's soccer game, about the way she'd sat on his apartment floor making volcanoes without complaint, about how she looked at him like he was more than just his job title or his role as someone's father. "Yeah," he said, "it's what I want." "Then we're doing this." Olivia smiled and something in Daniel's chest unclenched. "Fair warning, though. I'm going to be terrible at some of this. I don't know how to be a girlfriend, and I definitely don't know how to navigate being part of Sophie's life without overstepping. I'm going to make mistakes." "So will I. We'll figure it out together." "Together," she echoed. "I like that." They sat there for a while longer, hands linked across the table, talking about nothing and everything. When they finally left, Daniel walked her to her car and hesitated. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. "I thought you'd never ask." It was sweet and careful, a first kiss that held the promise of many more to come. When they pulled apart, Olivia was smiling. "You know what Sophie told me today?" she said. "What?" "She said if I make you sad, she'll be very disappointed in me. I assured her I'd do my best to avoid disappointment." "She's protective." "She's wonderful, you both are." Olivia got in her car, but before closing the door, she looked up at him. "Hey, Daniel." "Yeah? I'm really glad we're doing this, even though it's terrifying." "Me too." He watched her drive away, then headed to pick up Sophie from Rachel's. His sister opened the door with a knowing look. "You're glowing again." "I'm not glowing." "Sure you're not." She stepped aside to let him in. Sophie's in the living room. Fair warning, she's been talking about the game non-stop and has apparently decided Olivia is the best person who's ever existed. Sophie proved Rachel right, launching into another detailed recap of the game the moment she saw Daniel, this time with added commentary about how Olivia had brought orange slices and cheered really loud and understood about Emma's American Girl dolls. "I like her, Daddy," Sophie said as they drove home. "Like, really like her." "I'm glad, sweetheart." "Are you going to marry her?" Daniel nearly drove off the road. "What? No, we just started dating. Marriage is way down the line if it happens at all." "But you like her enough to maybe marry her someday?" Maybe? It's too early to know that." Sophie seemed satisfied with this answer. "Okay, but if you do marry her, can I be in the wedding? Emma was in her dad's wedding, and she got to wear a fancy dress and throw flowers. If I ever get married, and that's a big if, you'll definitely be part of it." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "But let's not plan the wedding before we've even been dating a month, okay?" "Okay, but I'm just saying, purple would be a good color scheme." That night, after Sophie was asleep, Daniel received a text from Olivia. A photo of her kitchen counter covered in soccer rulebooks and youth sports psychology articles. "I may have gone down a research rabbit hole," her message read. "Did you know there are entire academic studies on the psychological impact of parent involvement in children's athletics?" He laughed and typed back, "You really research soccer psychology? I want to do this right, which apparently means understanding the developmental importance of supportive spectatorship versus pressure-inducing over-involvement." "You're overthinking this." "That's what I do. I overthink and over-prepare and analyze until I've covered every possible scenario. And then what? And then I hope that all that preparation means I won't screw up the things that actually matter." Daniel thought about that, about how Olivia's need for control came from the same place his did. Fear of failure, fear of hurting the people who mattered. "You're not going to screw this up," he texted, "and if you do, we'll fix it." That's what people do when they care about each other. Is that what we're doing, caring about each other? "Yeah, I think we are." Her response came after a long pause. "Good, because I'm all in, Daniel. Whatever happens, I'm here." He fell asleep with his phone in his hand, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, hopeful about tomorrow, excited about possibilities, and brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time things could actually work out. The weeks that followed the soccer game settled into a rhythm that felt both natural and impossibly precious. Olivia became a fixture in their lives, not intrusive, not overwhelming, but present in a way that made Daniel realize how much he'd been missing companionship that went beyond his daughter and work colleagues. She came to dinner on Tuesdays, always bringing something. Fresh bread from the bakery she passed on her way, a book she thought Sophie might like, once an entire bag of art supplies because she'd walked past a sale and thought of you. They fell into an easy pattern where Olivia would help Sophie with homework while Daniel cooked, the three of them working in comfortable proximity that felt more like family than dating. But it wasn't without complications. 3 weeks after the soccer game, Sophie came home from school unusually quiet. Daniel noticed immediately. She barely touched her snack, didn't launch into her usual detailed recap of the day, just sat at the kitchen table drawing with unusual intensity. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" he asked. "Emma asked if Olivia was my new mom today." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "I said no, because she's not. She's Daddy's girlfriend." Sophie kept drawing, not meeting his eyes. "But then Emma asked if she was going to become my new mom, and I didn't know what to say." He sat down beside her, choosing his words carefully. "What do you want to say?" "I don't know." Sophie's voice was small. "I like Olivia. She's nice and she helps with my homework and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. But she's not my mom. My mom left. And what if Olivia leaves too?" There it was. The fear Daniel had been watching for, waiting for, dreading. He pulled Sophie onto his lap even though she was getting too big for it, holding her while she tried not to cry. "Listen to me," he said gently. "I can't promise you that Olivia will never leave. I wish I could, but I can't control what other people do. What I can promise is that if she did leave, it wouldn't be because of you. You are incredible and lovable, and anyone would be lucky to have you in their life. But Mom left because of me. She said she wasn't ready to be a mom." "Your mom left because of her own issues, Sophie, not because of anything you did or didn't do. She made a choice that had nothing to do with how amazing you are." Sophie was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you think Olivia will leave?" "Honestly, I don't think so. I think she really cares about both of us. But relationships are complicated, and sometimes they don't work out even when people care about each other." "That's scary." "Yeah, it is. But you want to know something? The scary things are usually worth it. Being your dad is the scariest thing I've ever done, and it's also the best thing." Sophie sniffled against his shoulder. "Can I ask Olivia if she's going to leave?" "You can ask her anything you want, but maybe give me a heads up first so I can warn her." That evening, after Sophie was in bed, Daniel called Olivia and explained the conversation. "She wants to ask if I'm going to leave," Olivia repeated slowly. "Yeah, and I told her she could ask you directly, but I wanted you to know it was coming." "What do I say?" "The truth, whatever that is for you." There was a long pause. "The truth is that I'm not going anywhere. The truth is that I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you, and I've never cared about a child the way I care about Sophie. The truth is that this scares me too, but I'm choosing to stay anyway." "Then tell her that." What if she doesn't believe me? What if she thinks I'm just saying what she wants to hear?" "Then you prove it by showing up, day after day. That's how trust works." Olivia came over the next evening, earlier than usual. Sophie was working on an art project at the kitchen table when she arrived, and Daniel watched his daughter's face carefully as Olivia sat down beside her. "Your dad said you had a question for me," Olivia said gently. Sophie kept coloring, not looking up. "Are you going to leave like my mom did?" Olivia didn't flinch from the directness. "I'm not planning to leave. I really like being part of your life, and your dad's life. But I understand why you'd worry about that. People always say they're not going to leave, and then they do." "You're right. People do say that. And sometimes they mean it and circumstances change. And sometimes they're just saying what they think people want to hear." Olivia reached out, then seemed to think better of it, keeping her hands in her lap. "I can't give you an absolute guarantee because life doesn't work that way. But I can tell you that I care about you and your dad very much, and I'm not the kind of person who gives up on things that matter to me." "How do I know we matter to you?" "That's a fair question." Olivia thought about it. "I guess you'll know by what I do, not just what I say. I show up when I say I will. I remember the things you tell me. I brought orange slices to your soccer game, even though I'd never been to a youth soccer game in my life because I wanted to do it right. Those are the kinds of things that show someone matters." Sophie finally looked up. Emma's dad's girlfriend forgot Emma's birthday. She said she was busy with work. "That would never happen," Olivia said firmly. "I have your birthday in my calendar with multiple reminders. January 15th, you'll be 9. "Well, how did you know that?" "Your dad told me, and I wrote it down because it's important." Olivia pulled out her phone, showing Sophie her calendar with the entry marked in purple, Sophie's favorite color. "See?" Sophie studied the phone, then looked at Olivia. "You really put it in purple?" "I pay attention." Olivia set her phone aside. "Sophie, I can't replace your mom. I wouldn't try to, even if I could. But I can be someone who shows up for you, who cares about your soccer games and your art projects and the things that matter to you. If you'll let me." "What if I don't want to let you? What if I decide I don't like you anymore?" "Then I'd be sad, but I'd respect that. This only works if you want me here too." Sophie was quiet for a long moment, her small face serious as she processed this. Finally, she said, "I want you here, but I'm still scared." "Me too," Olivia admitted. "Being scared of losing something good is normal. It means you care. Daddy says the scary things are worth it." "Your daddy is very smart." From the kitchen doorway, Daniel watched this exchange with something tight in his chest. This was vulnerability on both sides, Sophie asking the question she needed to ask, Olivia answering with honesty instead of empty reassurances. This was what building trust looked like, Sophie went back to her coloring, and Olivia stayed beside her, asking about the project. Within minutes, they were deep in conversation about color theory and whether purple and orange actually went together or were just fighting colors that sometimes make friends. Later, after Sophie had gone to bed and Olivia was preparing to leave, she stopped at the door. "That was harder than any board presentation I've ever given," she said. "You did great. I meant what I said about not leaving, about caring." She looked at him directly. "I know it's only been a few weeks, but this feels important. You feel important." Daniel stepped closer, taking her hand. "You feel important too, to both of us." "I don't want to screw this up." "Then don't. Just keep showing up, keep being honest, keep caring. That's all we can do." She kissed him then. Not their first kiss, but the first one that felt like a promise of something lasting. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "See you tomorrow?" she asked. "Tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that." "Good. I'm counting on it." The next major test came 2 weeks later when Daniel's company announced the annual holiday party. It was the kind of corporate event that everyone attended, partners, spouses, significant others, all mixing in formal wear and carefully modulated conversation. "You should bring Olivia," Marcus said when the invitation went out. "She's the CEO. She'll obviously be there." "Well, bring her as your date, genius. Make it official." Daniel hadn't considered this. They'd been careful at work, professional in the hallways, appropriate in meetings, never giving anyone reason to gossip. But showing up to the holiday party together would be a statement that everyone would notice. "It might be too soon," he said, "or it might be exactly the right time to stop hiding." Marcus leaned against Daniel's desk. "Look, everyone knows anyway. Eleanor knows, I know. Half the senior team has figured it out. You're not fooling anyone by pretending to arrive separately." That evening, Daniel brought it up with Olivia over the phone. "The holiday party is in 3 weeks," he said. "I was wondering if you wanted to go together, officially, as a couple." There was a pause. "Are you sure? That's making a very public statement." "I know, but Marcus pointed out that people already know, and we're not doing anything wrong. We restructured specifically so we could do this ethically. Why are we still hiding?" "We're not hiding. We're being discreet." "Same thing, different words." He shifted the phone to his other ear. "But if you're not comfortable with it, we can still arrive separately. I just thought—" "I want to go with you," Olivia interrupted. "I'm just worried about the optics for you. If people think you're getting favorable treatment because you're dating the CEO, let them think it. My work speaks for itself. The Hartwell account is thriving. My other clients are happy. Eleanor has nothing but good reviews for me. Anyone who wants to question my competence can look at the results." "You sound confident." "I am. About my work, about us, about all of it." He paused. "Unless you're not confident, in which case we should talk about that." "I'm confident," she said softly. "Terrified, but confident. Those seem to go together with you." "So that's a yes. We go together?" "That's a yes. I'll pick you up at 7. "You don't have to pick me up. I can drive." "Daniel Carter, I am asking you on a date to a formal event. I am picking you up at 7 in a car service. We are arriving together, and I am going to spend the entire evening making sure everyone knows exactly how remarkable I think you are. Non-negotiable." He smiled. "When you put it that way, how can I refuse?" The 3 weeks until the party passed in a blur of work deadlines and holiday preparations. Sophie's school had their winter concert, which Olivia attended, sitting between Daniel and Rachel and applauding enthusiastically when Sophie's class performed a slightly off-key rendition of several seasonal songs. Afterward, Rachel pulled Olivia aside while Daniel was helping Sophie find her coat. "You're good for him," Rachel said without preamble. "I hope so." "No, I mean it. I haven't seen my brother this happy in years. Maybe ever." Rachel studied her. "He doesn't trust easily. His ex really did a number on him. So if you're serious about this, about them, then I'm glad. But if you're not, I'm serious," Olivia said firmly. "I know it's fast, and I know I'm probably not who anyone expected for him, but I'm all in. Sophie and Daniel they're everything." Rachel smiled. "Good, because Sophie's already planning your wedding in her head. She told me the color scheme should be purple, and you should have a chocolate cake." "She's 8. She's also not wrong about the chocolate cake." The night of the holiday party arrived with December cold and clear skies. Daniel had bought a new suit, his first non-work necessity clothing purchase in 2 years, and Sophie had supervised his tie selection with the gravity of a fashion consultant. "The blue one," she declared. "It makes your eyes look nice. Olivia will like it." "Since when are you a relationship expert?" "Since always. I know things." She handed him the tie. "Are you nervous?" "A little. This is the first time we're going out together in front of everyone I work with." "But they already know you're dating, right?" "They suspect. This confirms it." Sophie considered this. Emma says her dad was nervous too when he first took his girlfriend to meet people. But then it was fine, and now everyone just thinks she's normal. That's reassuring, I think. "You look nice, Daddy. Olivia's going to think you're handsome." At 7 exactly, the car service arrived. Daniel kissed Sophie goodbye. She was staying with Rachel for the evening and headed downstairs to find a sleek black car waiting. Olivia was already inside, and when he slid in beside her, his breath caught. She was wearing a deep emerald dress that somehow made her eyes look even more striking. Her hair styled in soft waves, and when she smiled at him, Daniel forgot every coherent thought he'd prepared. "You look beautiful," he managed. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Sophie was right about the blue tie. "She texted you about the tie?" "She sent me 3 photos and a poll. The blue won unanimously." Olivia took his hand as the car pulled away from the curb. "Ready for this?" "Are you?" "I'm the CEO. I'm always ready." But her hand trembled slightly in his, betraying her nerves. The party was held at an upscale hotel downtown, the ballroom decorated with enough holiday elegance to make Pinterest weep. They arrived fashionably on time, and Daniel felt every eye in the room track their entrance as Olivia took his arm. Marcus appeared almost immediately, grin spreading across his face. Well, look at you two making it official." "Shut up, Chen," Daniel said, but he was smiling. "I'm serious. You both look great. Very power couple." Marcus grabbed champagne from a passing waiter and handed glasses to them both. "Fair warning, Eleanor has been holding court by the bar, and everyone's dying to see if you'll interact awkwardly or normally." "We'll aim for normally," Olivia said dryly. They made their way through the room, Olivia's hand warm in the crook of Daniel's elbow. People congratulated them on various work successes, asked polite questions about holiday plans, and generally behaved like adults capable of professionalism. But Daniel could feel the undercurrent of curiosity, the speculative glances and whispered conversations. Eleanor found them by the champagne fountain, her expression inscrutable. "Carter?" "Hayes. You both look lovely this evening." "Thank you, Eleanor," Olivia said smoothly. "I trust the new reporting structure has been working well?" "Very well," Daniel confirmed. "No complaints." "Good, because I'd hate to have restructured half my division only to have it be awkward." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "Though between us, I think it's good. You're both happier, which makes you both more effective. And Hayes, you smile more. It's unsettling but pleasant." "Thank you, I think," Olivia said. After Eleanor moved on, Daniel leaned toward Olivia. "Did she just give us her blessing?" "I believe she did, in the most Eleanor way possible." The evening progressed smoothly. They danced. Olivia was surprisingly good at it. Daniel was surprisingly not terrible, and made conversation with colleagues and clients. Douglas Hartwell was there with his wife, and he made a point of telling Olivia that Daniel was the best investment you've made since taking over. Around 10 o'clock, they stepped out onto the terrace for some air, the December cold biting but refreshing after the crowded ballroom. The city spread out below them, lights glittering against the dark sky. "This went better than I expected," Daniel said. "You expected disaster?" "I expected awkwardness, gossip, maybe some pointed questions about favoritism or ethics. There will probably be gossip, but we've done everything right. The restructuring, the transparency with Eleanor, keeping our work professional. Anyone who has an issue with us dating is just going to have to deal with it." Olivia turned to face him, her back to the city. "I'm glad we did this. Came together, made it public. It feels right." "Yeah, it does." "Can I tell you something?" "Always." She took a breath as if gathering courage. "I've been thinking about the future, not in a vague someday kind of way, but in a concrete this is what I want way. And what I want is this: you, Sophie, building something real together. I know it's fast and I know it's complicated, but I'm more sure about this than I've been about anything in my life. Daniel's heart was pounding. That's a big statement. I know, and if it's too much too soon, tell me. But I needed you to know where I stand. Instead of answering with words, Daniel kissed her. It was different from their other kisses, deeper, more certain, a promise wrapped in physical form. When they pulled apart, Olivia was smiling. "I'll take that as agreement," she said. Definite agreement. He kept his arms around her waist, not ready to let go. "I want that too. The future thing, the building, something real thing, all of it. Even though it's scary? Especially because it's scary. The scary things are worth it, remember?" They stayed on the terrace a while longer, talking about futures and possibilities and all the ways their lives were changing. Eventually, the cold drove them back inside, where the party was winding down and people were starting to make their exits. As they prepared to leave, James Morrison approached. The same James who'd competed with Daniel for the promotion months ago. "Carter," he said with what looked like genuine goodwill. "Congratulations on the Hartwell account, success, and everything else." He glanced at Olivia, then back to Daniel. "For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice, turning down the partnership. You look happier than I've ever seen you." "Thanks, Morrison. That means a lot." After James walked away, Olivia squeezed Daniel's hand. "See? Even your rivals are rooting for you. Or he's just drunk on champagne and feeling magnanimous. Let me have my moment of optimism." The car ride home was quiet, both of them pleasantly exhausted from the evening. When they reached Daniel's apartment building, Olivia walked him to his door. "Thank you for tonight," Daniel said, "for being willing to make this public, for handling it all with such grace. Thank you for being worth it." She kissed him softly. "Tell Sophie I said goodnight. She'll want a full report tomorrow, complete with details about your dress and whether anyone said anything romantic. Tell her we danced. Everyone was very boring and professional, and yes, I think her dad is handsome in his blue tie." Daniel watched her walk back to the car, then let himself into his apartment. Rachel had texted that Sophie had fallen asleep on her couch watching movies, so the apartment was empty and quiet. He changed out of his suit, smiling at his reflection in the mirror. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving, he was actually happy. The next morning, Sophie demanded the full story over breakfast. Daniel edited appropriately for 8-year-old consumption, but Sophie seemed satisfied with the narrative. "So everyone knows you're dating now?" she asked. "Everyone knows." "Good. I was tired of pretending she was just your friend when Emma kept asking questions." Sophie took a bite of cereal. "Can Olivia come to our Christmas thing?" Rachel was hosting Christmas dinner, a tradition that had started when Daniel's wife left and had continued every year since. It was small, just Rachel, her boyfriend Tom, Daniel, and Sophie. Adding Olivia would change the dynamic, make it feel more serious. "Do you want her there?" Daniel asked. "Yeah, she's part of our family now, right?" The casual way Sophie said it made Daniel's throat tight. "Yeah, sweetheart, I think she is." He texted Olivia later that morning. "Sophie wants to know if you'd come to Christmas dinner at my sister's. Fair warning, Rachel will interrogate you and the food will be chaotic." The response came quickly. "I would love to. Should I bring anything? Just yourself. And maybe lower your expectations. My expectations are already perfectly calibrated for family Christmas chaos. I've been researching appropriate gift-giving protocols." "Of course you have. I want to do this right, Daniel. This matters. You matter. To both of us." Christmas morning arrived with Sophie's excitement reaching fever pitch levels. She'd made Olivia a card, construction paper and glitter, and a drawing of the three of them under a very lopsided Christmas tree. Daniel had helped her wrap the art supplies Olivia had mentioned wanting, and Sophie had insisted on making the bow herself. They drove to Rachel's house in the early afternoon, Sophie chattering about presents and cookies and whether Olivia would like the card she'd made. Rachel's place was already warm and smelling of cooking food when they arrived, and Olivia showed up exactly on time, carrying a bag of presents and wearing a soft red sweater that made her look less like a CEO and more like someone who belonged in a family Christmas photo. Sophie launched herself at Olivia the moment she walked in, and Olivia caught her with a laugh. "Merry Christmas," Sophie said. "I made you something." "I can't wait to see it." Rachel pulled Daniel aside while Olivia was admiring Sophie's card. "She fits," Rachel said simply. With Sophie, with you, with all of this. Don't let her go. I don't plan to. Good. Because I already bought her a birthday present for next year, and I'd hate for it to go to waste. Dinner was exactly as chaotic as Daniel had warned. Too much food, too much laughter, Sophie telling increasingly elaborate stories about school, while Rachel and Tom provided running commentary. Olivia fit into the chaos seamlessly, helping in the kitchen, listening to Sophie's stories with genuine interest, even engaging Tom in a lengthy discussion about vintage cars that left both of them animated and happy. After dinner, they exchanged gifts. Sophie gave Olivia the art supplies in her card, which Olivia declared was going on her office wall. Olivia gave Sophie a beautiful sketchbook and a set of watercolor paints, along with a book about famous female artists that made Sophie's eyes go wide. "These are perfect," Sophie breathed. "I thought you might like them." Olivia looked at Daniel. "I have something for you too, but it's not really a present you can wrap." She pulled out an envelope, handing it to him. Inside were 3 tickets to an art museum exhibit Sophie had been dying to see, scheduled for early January. "I thought maybe we could all go together," Olivia said. "Make a day of it." Sophie was already bouncing. "Can we, Daddy? Please?" "Absolutely." Daniel looked at Olivia, seeing the hope and nervousness in her expression. She was trying so hard to do this right, to be part of their lives in a way that mattered. "Thank you. This is perfect." Later, after Sophie had crashed from sugar and excitement and was dozing on Rachel's couch, the adults sat around the kitchen table with coffee and leftover pie. "So," Rachel said, looking at Olivia, "how serious is this? Because my niece is already planning your wedding, and I need to know if I should encourage or gently redirect." "Rachel," Daniel warned. "It's fine," Olivia said. She set down her coffee cup, meeting Rachel's gaze directly. "I'm very serious. I love your brother. I adore Sophie, and I'm in this for as long as they'll have me." The room went quiet. It was the first time either of them had used that word, love, out loud and in front of other people. Daniel found his voice. "You love me?" "Of course I love you. I restructured my entire company, attended youth soccer games, and learned to make papier-mâché volcanoes. What did you think this was?" "I don't know. I hoped, but I wasn't sure." "I'm sure." Olivia took his hand across the table. "I'm absolutely sure. And if that's too much too fast, I understand, but I needed to say it." "It's not too much." Daniel squeezed her hand, aware that Rachel and Tom were watching but not caring. "I love you too. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to say it." "Well, that's disgustingly sweet," Rachel said, but she was smiling. "Tom, we're going to need more wine for this level of emotional honesty." Sophie stirred on the couch, blinking sleepily. "Did someone say they love someone?" "Olivia and your dad are being mushy," Rachel called over. Sophie sat up, suddenly alert. "Like love? "Yeah, sweetheart," Daniel said. Love. Sophie processed this, then smiled. "Good. I love Olivia too. Can we have more pie now?" The evening wound down with more dessert and more conversation, and when it was time to leave, Sophie insisted on holding both Daniel's and Olivia's hands as they walked to the car. "This was the best Christmas ever," she announced. "Yeah?" Daniel said. "Yeah, because everyone I love was in the same room." She looked up at Olivia. "You're going to come to Christmas every year now, right?" "If you'll have me, absolutely. We'll have you." Sophie said it with the confidence of someone who'd made an executive decision. "You're stuck with us now." That night, after Sophie was asleep in her bed and Olivia was preparing to head home, they stood in the doorway of Daniel's apartment, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "I meant what I said," Olivia murmured, "about loving you. I know. I meant it too. Where do we go from here?" Daniel thought about it, about all the ways their lives had changed in the past months, about the scary leap they'd both taken, about the future that was starting to look less like a question mark and more like a promise. "Forward," he said simply. "Together. We figure it out as we go." "That's not much of a plan." "It's the only plan I've got. Is it enough?" Olivia kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. "It's more than enough." 6 months later, on a warm June evening, Daniel found himself standing in his apartment. The new apartment, the one with 2 real bedrooms and a small balcony where Sophie was currently attempting to grow tomatoes, thinking about how much could change in less than a year. Olivia was in the kitchen, helping Sophie with a summer reading assignment that had somehow devolved into a debate about whether fantasy novels counted as real literature. Their voices drifted through the apartment, comfortable and familiar, and Daniel marveled at how seamlessly Olivia had woven herself into their lives. She had her own drawer in his dresser now, a toothbrush in the bathroom, a coffee mug that Sophie had picked out specifically for her, small markers of permanence that added up to something bigger than he'd ever expected to have again. His phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Are you going to do it tonight?" He looked at the small velvet box in his desk drawer, the one he'd been carrying around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Maybe. If it feels right, it's going to feel right. Stop overthinking. But Daniel couldn't help overthinking. Marriage was a big step, especially with Sophie to consider. He talked to her about it first, of course, asked if she'd be okay with Olivia becoming a more permanent part of their family. Sophie had looked at him like he was being deliberately dense. "Daddy, she's already permanent. You're just making it official. Can I help pick the ring?" So they'd picked the ring together, Sophie insisting on something sparkly, but not too sparkly. And Daniel trusting his 8-year-old daughter's surprisingly good taste. Now he just had to actually ask. He found them in the kitchen, Olivia reading aloud from Sophie's book while Sophie doodled in the margins of her assignment. "That's definitely going to get points deducted," Daniel said, nodding at the drawings. "It's creative interpretation," Sophie countered. "Mrs. Henderson loves creative interpretation. She loves neat handwriting and complete sentences. Those two, I guess." Olivia looked up, meeting Daniel's eyes, and something in his expression must have given him away because her eyebrows rose slightly. "Sophie," Daniel said, "can you give me and Olivia a minute?" Sophie's eyes went wide with understanding. She'd been in on the plan, after all. "Yeah, I need to go check on my tomatoes." She bolted for the balcony with all the subtlety of an 8-year-old trying to seem casual. Olivia stood slowly. "Daniel? What's going on?" "I've been thinking," he began, then stopped. This was harder than he'd anticipated. "Actually, I've been thinking for months about us, about the future, about what I want my life to look like." "That sounds ominous." "It's not. It's the opposite." He pulled the ring box from his pocket, and Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. "I know we haven't been together that long. I know some people will say it's too fast. But I also know that you're the best thing that's happened to me since Sophie came into my life. You make me happier, you make me braver, and you make me believe that good things can actually last. Daniel, let me finish. I'm nervous, and if I stop, I might not start again." He took a breath. "You didn't just fall in love with me. You fell in love with my daughter, with my chaotic life, with all the messy, complicated parts that come with being a single dad. And you didn't just accept them, you embraced them. You brought orange slices to soccer games and helped with volcano projects and learned to speak 8-year-old because you wanted to be part of our world." Tears were sliding down Olivia's cheeks now. "So I'm asking, and Sophie already gave her approval for the record, will you marry me? Will you let us be your family officially, permanently, for as long as you'll have us?" He opened the box, revealing the ring that Sophie had declared perfect. Olivia was crying in earnest now, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, obviously yes. How could the answer be anything but yes? Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then she was kissing him, and he was kissing her back, and somewhere on the balcony Sophie was cheering. They pulled apart to find Sophie pressed against the glass door, grinning so wide her face might split. "She said yes!" Sophie yelled unnecessarily. "We heard," Daniel called back. Sophie rushed inside, throwing her arms around both of them. "This is the best day ever! Can I tell Emma? Can I tell Aunt Rachel? Can we get a dog now?" "How did we get to a dog?" Olivia asked, laughing. "Married people have dogs. It's basically a rule." "That's not actually a rule," Daniel said. "It should be." They stood there, the three of them tangled together in the kitchen, and Daniel felt something settle in his chest, a peace he'd been searching for since Jennifer left, maybe since long before that. This was what he'd been working toward all along, even when he didn't know it. Not the promotion or the money or the professional success. This, love and partnership and family. Olivia pulled back slightly, looking at the ring on her finger, then at Sophie, then at Daniel. I can't believe this is real. Believe it, Daniel said. We're yours now, for better or worse. Mostly better, Sophie added, but sometimes worse when Daddy burns dinner. Hey, I've gotten better at cooking. You've gotten better at ordering takeout, Olivia corrected, but she was smiling. That night, after Sophie had finally gone to bed, too excited to sleep but forced to try anyway, Daniel and Olivia sat on the balcony watching the city lights and talking about futures. We should probably set a date, Olivia said. What's the rush? We've got all the time in the world. I'm just eager to make it official. To be your wife, to be Sophie's stepmom. She stopped. Is that okay? Me calling myself her stepmom? I think you should ask her. But yeah, I think it's okay. She's an amazing kid, Daniel. You did such a good job with her. We did it together. These past months, you've been as much her parent as I have. Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this. A family, a partner, a child who makes me laugh every day. I thought I'd traded all of that for career success. Turns out you can have both. Turns out you can. She lifted her head to look at him. Thank you. For what? For taking a chance on me. For introducing me to Sophie. For not letting my terrifying CEO persona scare you away. You were never that terrifying. I absolutely was. Marcus still flinches when I walk into a room. Okay, you were a little terrifying, but in a good way. They sat there in comfortable silence, and Daniel thought about the journey that had brought them here. The late nights in the office, the Hartwell presentation that changed everything, the moment in the elevator when he'd first seen past her professional armor, the restructuring, the first date, the first time Olivia met Sophie, the soccer game, the Christmas dinner, the 1,000 small moments that had added up to this. It had started with a choice, to challenge her in that meeting, to be honest about his feelings, to introduce her to the most important person in his life. And every choice since then had led them here, to this balcony, to this ring, to this future they were building together. Hey, Olivia said softly, what are you thinking about? That moment in the hotel lobby, months ago before any of this really started. The launch party? Yeah. You were drunk and you almost kissed me and I stopped you. Olivia groaned. Please don't remind me of that embarrassment. No, it was the right thing. Both of us knew it. I told you that if you were sober, I'd make the first move, but not like that. And look at us now. You made the first move. Several first moves, actually. Because you were worth waiting for, worth doing it right. He turned to face her fully. I think about that night sometimes. About how easy it would have been to just give in, to take what was offered without thinking about the consequences. But if I had, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have built something real and lasting. We would have just had a moment, and then it would have been gone. Patience and timing. And choosing to do things the right way, even when the wrong way was easier. Olivia kissed him, soft and sweet. I love you, Daniel Carter. I love your patience and your integrity and the way you always choose the hard right thing over the easy wrong thing. I love you too, and I'm really glad you were drunk that night because it forced us to slow down and do this properly. Are you saying you're grateful I embarrassed myself? I'm saying I'm grateful for every choice we made that led us here. Inside, they could hear Sophie moving around in her room, probably unable to sleep from excitement. Think she's going to be up all night? Olivia asked. Probably. Should we go check on her? In a minute. Olivia laced her fingers through his. I just want to sit here with you for a little longer. My fiancé. My fiancé. That's going to take some getting used to. We've got time. All the time in the world. They sat there on the balcony, engaged and happy, and planning a future that looked nothing like Daniel had imagined a year ago. Sophie eventually appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Can't sleep? Daniel asked. Too excited. Is Olivia staying over? I can, Olivia said. If that's okay. Yeah. Sophie climbed onto Daniel's lap, even though she was really too big for it now. Can we have pancakes for breakfast? The fancy kind that Olivia makes? I think that can be arranged, Olivia said. Sophie settled against her father's chest, content and sleepy now that she had confirmation that nothing was changing, everything was staying. Daniel wrapped one arm around his daughter and held Olivia's hand with his other, and thought about how sometimes the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming. He'd spent so long protecting himself and Sophie from the possibility of heartbreak that he'd almost missed out on this, on love that showed up and stayed, on partnership that made everything easier, on family that chose to be together rather than being bound by obligation. The scary things were worth it. He'd told Sophie that months ago, and now he understood it more deeply than ever. Loving Olivia was scary. Opening his life to someone new was scary. Trusting that she would stay when everyone else had left was terrifying, but she had stayed. She kept showing up, kept choosing them, kept proving that some people meant what they said. "I'm really happy," Sophie murmured, half asleep now. "Yeah, sweetheart? Yeah. This is what family is supposed to feel like." Daniel looked at Olivia over Sophie's head, seeing his own emotions reflected in her eyes. This was what family felt like, safe and warm and chosen. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's get you back to bed." They carried Sophie inside together, tucking her into her purple room with the art on the walls and the books stacked on her nightstand. She was asleep before they left, a small smile on her face. In the living room, Olivia turned to Daniel. "I should probably go home. Let you guys have your space. Or you could stay. Sophie's right. You're part of this family now. Might as well start acting like it." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He pulled her close. "Stay. Wake up with us. Makes those fancy pancakes Sophie loves. Start getting used to being part of our everyday, not just the special occasions." "Okay," Olivia said softly. "I'll stay." They got ready for bed together, comfortable in the routine they'd been building for months. And when they finally settled in for the night, Olivia curled against Daniel's side, her ring catching the light from the window. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the CEO or the persona or the professional success. Just me. And for loving what you saw." "That's the easy part. You're incredible, Olivia. You always have been. I just feel lucky that you chose to be incredible with us." She kissed him, then settled back against his shoulder. "Best decision I ever made." Daniel held her close, listening to her breathing even out, thinking about choices and chances and the beautiful unpredictability of life. A year ago, he'd been drowning in work and stress, measuring his worth by his ability to provide, convinced that happiness was a luxury he couldn't afford. Now he had everything he'd never knew he needed: a partner who challenged and supported him in equal measure, a daughter who was learning that love could be permanent, and a future that looked bright instead of just survivable. Sometimes love didn't begin with passion or grand gestures. Sometimes it began with respect, with choosing to do the right thing even when it was hard, with showing up and staying and proving that you meant what you said. And sometimes the courage to say, "Not like this," became the foundation for everything beautiful that followed. Daniel drifted off to sleep with a smile on his face. Olivia warm beside him, and Sophie safe in the next room, already dreaming of whatever adventure tomorrow would bring. This was home. This was family. This was love. Messy and complicated and absolutely worth every scary moment it took to get here. And it was just the beginning.